about to get racing then for 2 hours. The Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. A good mix of cars in all of the different classes. It should be a very interesting race, and of course different conditions to the race that we had for qualifying too. So I think the order will be a little bit shaken up. It is then the car on pole position of number 1 that is leading the way around.
Brad Burns at the
Brad
wheel.
Burns at the wheel, and lights go out and away we go. Will Stacey using a bit of the grass there. He's keen to make up progress at the start of the race in the Blue Lotus, but it looks like Brad Burns, no, he's not quite going to hold on, is he? Phil Knibb around the outside in the Seat Cupra has the lead of the race then, or does he? Action a bit further back as well, but it's side by side still between the two leads. It looks like the Cupra has gone through, so it's Phil Knibb leading. Bradley Burns is in second place, and it's side by side a bit further back as well. That's a good start by Ryan Parkin, isn't it, as well, in the Audi. He's up into third place. So it's all happening in the first few corners.
Burns grabbed the lead back at the old hairpin with a pretty aggressive move, but he's back ahead. But Phil Knibb going great guns in the Seat. We've had contact. Livesley in the Jeanette's gone round. Think he had contact with the Gillespie Seat, and it's in the gravel. Just like at Brands Hatch 4 weeks ago, the Jeanette gets shoved off on the opening lap of the race, I'm afraid. And Alec Livesley in the gravel. They're the Class B leaders, including Scott Parkin, who's trying to win the championship today. Scott Parkin, who has had 3 wins this season in Class B, but it's all action at the front. Up to third, then has come the Audi TT, so that's a good start from Ryan Parkin, and he is just ahead of Brett Lidsey, the sometime VLN racer, who is out nowadays in James Collins's M3. So it's a very action-packed opening lap with that mixed grid, and now Parkin's going for second. So the Audi TT is absolutely flying on this opening lap for Ryan Parkin, and he's up into second spot, which is, as I say, a great opening lap because he only started 7th. So absolutely epic stuff, and he's right up with Brad Burns then, the ex-Clio Cup racer that leads the way in the Volkswagen Golf. He won with Stacey's out over the grass now. So this is absolutely frantic stuff for the opening lap. How long is this race, Ian? Remind everybody.
2 hours.
Okay.
And we've had about a minute and 3/4. So a long way still to go in this race, and a lot has happened already. And it's Brad Burns leading. It's a great start from Ryan Parkin to get up to second place. He's sharing that car with Dylan Brick to a late addition in this race. Phil Knibb is there in third. The Ginetta is broken, isn't it? I think it's going to pull off. They've tried to get that car back into the race, but Alec Livesley has managed half a lap. I think there's been another incident along the way, so sadly out of the race. And that's close for Parkin as well, who made such a good start to the race. There's the Ginetta pulling off.
Got broken front left suspension,
and
I think.
there's a bollard that presumably got taken out in that instant as well, that the drivers are going over. So Ryan Parkin, the dark side Audi, dropping back down the order then, and that has promoted, therefore, I think the Cupra up to second of Phil Knibb, as they make their way down towards the Fogarty S's, and then it's the BMW in third. That's Brett Lidsey.
Yes, this is action-packed. What's happened to Ryan Parkin then? Meanwhile, twin brother Scott has got the leader Class B away from Kevin Glover. So it's a change there for third position because the Cupra of Mark Grice goes up the inside of Brett Lidsey's BMW. So that's a change of position as well. So this is absolutely action-packed stuff from the Club Enduro Championship. Opening 2 laps of the race. But Brad Burns is doing a good job out front. Meanwhile, some battles a little bit further down the pack. You've got the BMW there of Luke Browds getting the better of Ben Williams' Cupra. The Audi did make the start. The Matthew Stockford and Alan James car that we thought was going to be withdrawn. There it is, right involved in the battle. Ex-Paralympian medalist Matthew Stockford, I would think, would have started that car. He generally does. So he is involved in that battle. You've got the Ginetta G40 that patched up after incident yesterday. Chris Webster just behind. That's a Class B car. Those 4 ahead are Class A cars. But as Ryan Parkin out of the Dark Side Developments Audi, that has been pretty faultless this season, I think. But unfortunately, and it was yesterday, had a good race yesterday, but it's gone very wrong on lap 2.
Talking of going very wrong, it looks like a car that's blown up, but still continuing. That looked like a massive blow. Who's that? That is the
Carlo Turner, Nick Grove.
It is the
1
Series, isn't it? The 101 car that's going around. It's still circulating. That looked like it was a massive drama, but all good. Everyone still continues on their way here. So we've lost 2 front runners in the first 2 laps of the race in terms of Ryan Parkin, and in terms of the Alec Livesley, Adam Bessel, Janetta, I've got the Cupra now ahead of the BMW of Brett Lindsay. That's down to 4th place. Then I think behind them it's the number 2 car, isn't it? Joel Oswick in the BMW, and then it's Will Stacey, who's been very rapid this season as well. Yellow flags waving, of course, while recoveries are being done around the circuit. We could see the recovery vehicle trying to deal with the car of Ryan Parkin a moment ago, but it's still being done in localised yellows as far as we can see at the moment.
Yeah, that'd be good. We had a similar situation at Snetterton. That race went through without interruption. So let's hope for a similar type of thing today here at Donington Park. There's the battle between Ben Williams and Matthew Stockford in the Dynamics Audi. Chris Webster just behind, so that's the battle being led by Luke Browd for something like 12th position. Ben Williams seems to have been losing positions over the course of this lap, although he grabs one back there as Luke Browd spins and he gets ahead of Matthew Stockford all in one.
Yeah, and now he's off the road. There was drama in the early stages of the race yesterday. The road sports race for his father Paul, who was off the circuit at Radgate, I think it was. He had a moment, wasn't it, the first corner, in fact. That's the Keith Fryer and Ian Thornton Honda, just going past the Lotus, which appears to possibly have broken again.
That's the Campbell Cassidy Matt
yeah,
Carrington car.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the car which had the gear linkage cable replaced.
It's going, but
not very well.
Not really.
I think it's fair to say. And just behind that Keith Fryer Honda Civic Type R at the moment, there is the 176 car going through. That's the Lynch M3.
From the back of the grid up to 19th in 3 laps. So that's good progress from William and Freddie Lynch. Good to see they got out there after problem right at the beginning of qualifying. But it is Brad Burns that leads by 1.5 seconds from Phil Knibb. This is the best I think we've seen Phil Knibb go in this Seat. He went well in road sports at Brands Hatch a few weeks ago, but in this Club Enduro grid to be running second, excellent effort there. Up ahead of the class championship leaders, I think, are Mark Grice coming into this weekend. Yeah, they're the leading Class A championship contenders. Very closely fought title there. At the back of this group is the Class C leader, David Lawrence, who has drafted in Alistair Camp to share his Honda Civic with him this weekend. Alistair Camp, champion in 750 Motor Club categories in the past, and David Lawrence leads Class C by about 6 seconds from Cale Keltz at this stage within the Class C, and the biggest grid I think we've had from Class C all season long this weekend, which is good to see.
Good to have a good balance between classes A, B and C. The classes split based on power to weight ratio. Class A for cars of up to 300 brake horsepower per tonne, splits for B and C 240 and 180 brake horsepower per tonne, and naturally aspirated cars only in Class C as well. There's also the Clubman Cup as well for older machinery as well, which we'll keep an eye on as the race goes on as well.
Lead gap came down on that lap to 1.2 seconds from Brad Burns to Phil Knibb. So the Seat is chasing the Volkswagen down up front. By the way, we're about a second away from that record pace at the moment, set by Chris Boardman. Was that last season, or a couple of seasons ago, in a BMW? But it's the front-wheel drive cars that are in the first 3 positions in the early stages of this one at the moment.
Yeah, 2 years ago that lap record was set as the Club Enduro returns to the Grand Prix circuit this weekend for the penultimate meeting of the season. They will go to Silverstone at the end of October as well. It's possible that the championship could be decided before then, but it may go down to the final round. There's Michael Downey, number 76, in the familiar orange Porsche Boxster, the driver from Haddington. Been with Club Enduro pretty much since the start, and has been a big supporter of this of the championship as it's evolved.
Yeah, CW Motorsport prepared Boxster S. He is at the wheel of 2017. He started racing and started in this championship, so as you say, really always focused on this category for the Scotsman.
Yeah, and he's there just ahead of the 56 car of David Lawrence that we were mentioning as well, and he's had a good season, newcomer into the championship.
Yeah, ex-Time Attack competitor David Lawrence, 34 from Derby, so very much his local race. This one, and as I say, he's drafted in double hot hatch champion Alistair Camp to help him out in the Area Motorsport Honda Civic FN2. There's the Honda S2000, car number 11, started by Charlie Dark. And he shares with Dan Asano in that car. That was the car that qualified highest up the order in the Clubman Cup for the older cars category. We haven't seen so many cars in this season, but a better entry again here at Donington Park, as it is for the majority of cases, really. Lead gap now 1.6 seconds between Brad Burns and Phil Knibb, but the car that was in third position of Mark Grice has dropped a couple of positions. A slower last lap for Mark Grice means he's fallen behind Brett Lidsey and Joel Oswick. So the two BMWs have moved into third and fourth positions, and it looks like they're having a good battle for third spot, so hopefully we'll pick up on that. Cars 40 and 2, and immediately Alpha Life show us the pictures of that battle for third, fourth and fifth. Will Stacey in sixth isn't showing the pace that we've seen from that Lotus Elise all season. It had another head gasket go in the last round at Snetterton, so I wonder if they've made some adjustments. Perhaps hasn't got as much power, but they're hoping for better reliability this weekend. So that was a good battle across the line for third position, being led by Brett Lidsey. But there's the leader, not leading by very much, Brad Burns, only a second ahead in this race. Bradley Burns, a 22-year-old from Surrey. He was a podium finisher in the German TCR Championship a few seasons ago, but Rob Baker's drafted him in to the Area Motorsport Volkswagen Golf for the last 3 meetings. He is not able to get away from Phil Knibb in this Seat Leon Euro Cup car. So an older car, the factory-built Seat. It's an Area Motorsport prepared Volkswagen Golf that they've been developing, and it's been going really well over the course of the last couple of events. I think it had a failure at Spa, but at Snetterton the Golf was running really well, and with Brad Burns' help, the car leading the way here, Ian.
Yeah, it is. 1.09 seconds there was between Burns and Knibb at the end of the previous lap. Then about 4 seconds behind, you'd got the Brett Lidsey BMW and that battle with Oswick, and the 27 car of Mark Grice also involved as well. You can see already we're starting to get into some of the traffic. That's the 101 car that has been lapped. That was the car that we saw in a cloud of smoke earlier on, Carlo Turner, but it still seems to be circulating okay. And then the next car that they're going to lap is that number 10 Ginetta, which has been started in this race by Andrew Shepherd, the driver from Nuneaton.
Yeah, that car second in the Class C Championship, I think, coming into this weekend. So there's out of red gate the third place car of Lidsey. Then for fourth and fifth together, Joel Oswick under pressure from Mark Grice. After that, Phil Knibb's been hit by that slower Ginetta, and the Ginetta just drifted across the road. Obviously didn't realise Phil Knibb was there. Phil saved the car very well, but has that damaged the car because it was had a knock on the back quarter, which sometimes the touring cars are quite vulnerable in that part of the car, so that was very unfortunate for Phil Knibb. Meanwhile, behind, a big challenge. They've broke the Ginetta possibly, hasn't it? That's very slow at this stage. The battle for fourth, though, looking very strong between Joel Oswick in that German Auto Works BMW M4 and the recovering Mark Grice, who had a moment a few laps ago. But it's been a fairly dramatic opening part to this race.
Yeah, been lots going on, hasn't there? So we'll keep an eye on what goes on with Phil Knibb after that brush. Sorry, more than a brush, wasn't it, with the Ginetta of Andrew Shepherd. Here we've got the cars making their way through the Melbourne hairpin. Brett Lidsey pushing on there. Back end of the car stepped out a little bit as he got on the power. He's only just ahead of the number 2 car, which is that of Joel Oswick, 27. Mark Grice is there in third. Well, Stacey's still there in fourth position in the RBR Lotus, and then a bit further back we've got this little battle going on down the order. That includes the 168 David Emery M235i for the drive from Edenbridge. So I'm not sure that I've seen this one so far this season. I've not seen all of the rounds of the championship this year though.
Yeah, this is, I think, new to us. So this is, I would think, one of the VLN prepared cars, the old M2 35i, as you were saying, because Simon Glenn, who shares this car, is a regular in the VLN. Okay. He's a multiple Nürburgring 24-hour starter. So I suspect that's where that car's from, because BMW Motorsport built quite a lot of these in Germany. But it's good. It's a car that I thought we would see in this championship before now. So if it is one of those, that's great to see. And don't know so much about David Embury, so he might be a bit newer to racing. But yeah, Simon Glenner, I think a 4-time starter of the Nürburgring 24 Hours. And there is a novice cross on the back, so that would suggest that David is new to racing. And he's just been lapped by the leader.
He has, about to be lapped by second place as well. I wonder if he's just a little bit more cautious now, having had that incident with the Ginetta a lap and a half ago. As he's going past now the 66 car as well of Johnny Hayes, the Shropshire driver in the 2.8 litre BMW Compact. That's one of the regular Class C front runners.
Yeah.
There's that Ginetta into the pits.
One last time out at Snetterton did that BMW you just mentioned.
So the Ginetta being raised up on the jacks. They're seeing what damages. They're focusing on the left front, which is where the contact occurred, of course, with Phil Knibb on the left-hand side of the driver, and I imagine they've got the wheel off there and just looking for any damage. I expect the driver's reported there's a vibration or something like that after that contact. It's like we've got the scrutineers down there as well, keeping an eye on what is going on as well.
Will Stacey is now the quickest driver on the circuit, not the fastest lap, but currently the quickest car out there. And he has caught that group. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th are all together now. There's Stacey. Excellent job again from the Alpha Life team to get the cars that we're talking about on our TV screen. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th all coming up towards McLean. They've got a car to lap. So Phil Knibb squeezes past, I think it's the Kale Kelt BMW. Brett Lidsey now right on terms with him. Brett Lidsey, the driver from Kent. Another driver that's raced in the VLN, nowadays known as the Nürburgring Landstrecken Series, NLS. And raced in Europe as well as Brett Lidsey quite a bit, but he's sharing this BMW with James Collins, the car owner. The car in the early parts of the season was raced by Nigel Greensalt, but Brett Lidsey's now the driver to share the car. That BMW M3, great to have one of these E46 M3s on the grid again this season. We've already got a track limit penalty very early in the race, so that is Mark Grice, who's been given a 5-second penalty. Is it Mark that started? Yeah, Mark Grice has got a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits.
Okay, so...
And he is under pressure from Will Stacey.
More than under pressure. Well, Stacey is almost alongside there, but I think in a straight line the Cupra was able to outdrag the little Lotus. But as you said, Will Stacey is currently sort of fastest man on circuit. Let's see if he can make a move for positioning. Ignoring that 5-second penalty for the moment, as maybe they make their way through. We've got another penalty as well further back for the 176 car. That's the Lynch M3, which had made its way up from the back of the grid. That's a 5-second penalty that they have incurred as well. Again, for one would think a track limits infringement. We're only on lap 11 of the race already. Drivers starting to pick up penalties. We're only about just over an eighth of the way through it.
Yeah, that's very early. Well, you don't really do it at any point, really, but very early to get a penalty. Stacey quicker then through the old hairpin, tucked up right behind the Seat. The Lotus is a tiny car in comparison. There's quite a bit of traffic upcoming. Here comes Lidsey to the inside of Phil Knibb. Can't quite get there. Obviously, with Lidsey perhaps a bit more experienced, and Knibb's got a penalty now. This could get a little bit frustrating, I think, if this carries on. They've got to pass the other Rob Boston Lotus there. So Knibb and Grice in this group, both with penalties. But yeah, he's been caught by Brad Lidsey. Lidsey had a big challenge there into McLean's. Couldn't get past though. But yeah, my point was that Lidsey's done a lot more endurance racing than Knibb has, who's got caught up in the traffic behind David Lawrence, the Class C leader, and this is the chance for Brad Lidsey to pounce. To go either side of Lawrence. Very spectacular stuff, and Joel Oswick is joining in as well in the BMW M4 with the next two not far back, and Knibb's going to lose one position to Lidsey. He's going to lose a second position to Oswick. Not quite, I don't think, in that BMW M4 with a 6-cylinder twin turbocharged engine, and Knibb trying to fight back, can't quite get past Lidsey there. But this is an excellent battle here in between, I think, 5 different types of car as well, isn't it, involved in this? Yeah,
and of course all of this is allowing Bradley Burns to get away out in the lead of the race. The gap now 7.5 seconds first to second. Second place now being Brett Lidsey in that BMW on the road. They're just coming up to lap the Michael Downey Porsche Boxster as well from a lower class. Then there's Knibb and then Oswick fourth in the M4, as Josh was saying. Then the Grice Cupra, and then, well, Stacey now up the inside of the Cupra. The old hairpin has to take a lot of curb on the inside of the old hairpin. and can't make the move there. That was a very close moment indeed. I thought that could have turned out into a sizable collision, but well, fortunately it did not, and they've both survived. They're just lapping Vitotas Piperas Honda Civic, the FN2. Go past him.
Another chance for Stacey here into Coppis. He's on the inside line, I think, of Mark Grice this time. So is this job done?
Yeah, he's done it at Coppis corner. So up to 5th on the road goes Will Stacey now, so we can disregard that penalty for the moment. But as you say, these penalties might well accumulate as the race goes on, and if unfortunately if they occur often enough, we will start to get drive-throughs as well. That's the MX-5 that's gone off the road there.
That's James Dennison from Car Magazine, so that'll be an interesting write-up in the mag in future weeks. As Joel Oswick goes up the inside of Phil Knibb to grab 3rd position at this stage, and he goes through. But going back to that Mazda, the reason that James Dennison is driving it because that car's running on synthetic fuel, so that is a good news story for Car Magazine to write about, and I think James is finding out what it's all about over the course of today. Here's out of a second though, up across the line. Brett Lidsey now in 2nd, Oswick up to 3rd, so the rear-wheel drive cars are coming strong now. So does that mean the front-wheel drive cars just started to use their front tyres up early on? And for Phil Knibb and Mark Grice, they're dropping away as they lap the Benz Mazda, the car driven by Ben Short and Ben Hansey over the course of this race.
Update from the pit lane, the number 10 Ginetta, that had the contact with Phil Knabb, that had changed left front wheel, the rim was broken on the wheel after the contact with the Knibb car, and the 74 Lotus, that's the one I think that we can see in pit lane now. It's been getting stuck periodically in 3rd and 4th gear, so that's the one that had the broken gear linkage in qualifying. They changed it, but they didn't have time to set it correctly, and now some more work needs doing in the pit lane. So it's a bit of a test session for them now, Josh.
And Stacey dives up the inside of Knibb and has almost got squeezed out just like he did earlier. It's a very small car to squeeze into positions I don't think are quite as large as Will Stacey hopes they're going to be. He can't quite get past Knibb here, but the 2 touring cars definitely falling away at this stage of the race. As now Mark Grice tries to get involved. He's going off the circuit though because of that challenge all over the curbs. And that's time lost then for Mark Grice in 6th position. What further news from the pit lane is another gearbox issue for car number 100, which is that Mazda that just went off the road, James Dennison. Another car that's been off, number 20, that's Vitos Papirias in his Honda. He think got removed from the race at Snetterton for exceeding track limits too many times. So that's what some of the others have got to be aware of. If they do it too much, they could get excluded from the event. Stacey's done it, hasn't he? He's ahead of Phil Knibb, but Knibb's going to fight back here up in towards Redgate, but he's done it. Stacey's up into 4th spot now, and will be looking, along with Joel Oswick and Brad Lidsey ahead of him, to try and go after the race leader, Brad Burns. A gap 7.7 seconds between the top 2 at this stage.
So down through the corner curves goes Will Stacey then, now up into 4th position on the road, ahead of Phil Knibb in the Seat.
We haven't really spoke about Class B, have we, very much?
Not much.
Scott Parkin leads that, the jump jip leader, by 5.8 seconds over Kevin Glover. So they're the 2 Golfs, the diesel car ahead of the petrol one. And a bit further back, Chris Plaskett's GTI Golf is 3rd within Class B. And there's that Mazda that's got gear issues. So James Dennison's brought that car in after he had that off-track excursion. It's stuck in 2nd gear, and that may be why he pulled off the road. They're checking out perhaps a bit more than just gearbox issues as well, maybe having a good look into the engine bay here, as you can see. So that's a shame for that car that's running on synthetic fuels. P1 fueled, I think, for that car, trying to demonstrate the drop-in nature of synthetic fuels, but I think an unrelated issue with this gearbox issue being stuck in gear currently.
Number 2 car there of Joel Oswick in 3rd place, just getting past one of the back markers there, but he's going to come under pressure, I think, before much longer from Will Stacey. And the car stopped on the circuit at Hollywood, I'm afraid. It looks like it's going to go crawl down the hill. That's the Jamie Hadley car, the invitation class car, reclassified from Class B, the Volkswagen Golf GTI. And that is a bit of a chicane at the moment. He ought to, if he can, try and get that car off the road, but that may need some outside intervention to deal with it. We'll keep an eye on the situation. All of the things being equal, the pit car window should be open in 6 minutes' time. Phil Knibb's penalty now been increased to 15 seconds. It goes from 5 to 10, so 5 to 15. Then it'll go to 45 next, I think, or possibly a drive-through in lieu of a 30-second penalty. If there are any more examples of track limits infringements before the end of the race.
I don't really know what's going on because it's not been a problem for the rest of the meeting. I know it's a longer race, but it's happening sort of immediately as a sprint race distance would be, and everyone should be aware of the regulations. The top 4 drivers have been fine, but some of the others getting quite excessive track limit penalties very early on in the piece. Safety car boards are out.
Yes, we can see the lights flashing. There we go. The yellow and white SC lights, and that will be to recover that Golf, the Jamie Hadley Golf that has come a cropper. Saying the pit lane window should open in about 5 minutes, but it won't open while the safety car is out, because you cannot take your pit stops, your mandatory pit stops, behind a safety car. Probably while the safety car is out, we should tell you that all of the pit stops in Club Enduro, they have to be over a sort of fixed amount of time, and then there are drivers that have penalties in addition to that as well. For those that have had success in previous races, so added to the 3 minutes, Rob Baker and Bradley Burns, they'll have a 30-second extra stop to make. The Fenwick and Shepherd Ginetta, I think that's back out now, that will have an extra 20 seconds to serve in the stop. As too will the 27 car of Mark Grice and William Beach. It'll be another 30 seconds for Johnny Hayes and Paul Subiani, car 66. Car 89, Scott Parkin, will have an extra 30 seconds to serve in the pit stops. Christopher Plaskett an extra 10. The number 95 car of Luke Stevitz and Kevin Glover an extra 10. And the treble 3 car of Thomas Stedman and Michael Hooper in Class C an extra 10 seconds as well. So various drivers are going to have to have slightly longer pit stops over and above the minimum 3 minutes once they make their mandatory stops at some point after the first half hour of the race.
And that's why Bradley Burns was trying to build a lead up. You mentioned there, he had a 30-second penalty, and the cars in 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th don't have an extra penalty to serve in the pit stops. But obviously with the safety car out, that is going to mean that lead gap will decline. There is a couple of 3 cars that are between Burns and Lidsley. That lead gap should expand. Now, hopefully that Honda Civic was in the gravel before the safety car board was shown.
Yeah. Well, otherwise the Lithuanian might be in a little bit of bother if I talk to Piperas. The Golf still stationary on the circuit at Hollywood, needing to be recovered as well. There is the 20 car off at Redgate, one of the FN Enduro cars, and that will be recovered by the snatch vehicle there. I don't think we got to tell you all of the sort of changes to the programme as well for those of you that need to be aware of this. So it's irrelevant now, but number 6 Ryan Parkin was going to be shared with Dylan Brichter. But that car, I think, out of the race. Number 11, Dan Orsano, sharing with Charlie Dark, who started that car. Number 19, Peter Mansfield, is sharing with Mike Sanford, who is going to be second in that car. 48, William Stacey, sharing with Rob Boston now. He's the extra driver. Another driver that has another car that's got an extra driver, but which is in trouble, is the number 74 car, Matt Cherrington, joining Campbell Cassidy in that car. And I think that was it in terms of additional drivers. The Golf is now coasting its way down the hill. Now, what's it going to do when it gets to the bottom of the hill, and has it got enough oomph to get any further than that? It's just being told, yeah, just pull off into the onto the access road there. Should be able to get in behind the barriers there, I would think, and then that will cease to be a problem.
Yes, so the rescue crews can help with that one. So maybe one further lap behind the safety car. And then after the racing gets restarted, the pit window should open too. But there is that Area Motorsport Volkswagen Golf then that leads the race. This the latest generation of Volkswagen Golf and Area Motorsport have converted this GTI into a race car. They've got a big turbocharger to bring it up to the 300 brake horsepower per tonne limit that is on Class A. And it's been well developed over the course of the season. Big improvements since the opening round at Croft, and it's now in. He's a car that's certainly going to be one of the top cars in the class. It was a winner last time out at Snetterton. Chased Will Stacey all the way, and I suppose you could say it chased Stacey's car into retirement when it blew a head gasket. Plumes of smoke come out as the engine expired. And then there was an easy run to the end for Rob Baker to take the checkered flag first. Looking back at the class leaders there, Class C leader is number 56, David Lawrence. He shares with Alistair Camp this weekend, as we've been saying. David Lawrence won at Croft with Isla Krylov as his co-driver. Mike Stamford was with him at Alton Park when he was a winner. He won at Spa when he drove solo. Had problems though last time out at Snetterton, so didn't score well there. But is, I think, on terms really for the Class C championship. But where David Lawrence ends up in the overall championship is, I think, yet to be decided. But he's one of the sort of front runners. But sometimes Class C hasn't been populated enough for him to score maximum points, which, for an overall title perspective, is a problem. Only one car between him and his closest class rival, which is Cale Keltz, in the German Autoworks BMW that won the Class C title last season in the hands of Joel Oswick. And Cale Keltz travelling over from the States this weekend, Ian.
Yeah, and having his very first races yesterday in the Armed Forces Race Challenge, but specifically here for the club Enduro. I think had a road BMW that he wanted German Autoworks to do some work on. That was how the connection was made, and since then, he's got the racing bug and has decided to make his debut. So anyone watching from the States, a very warm welcome to you. Let's head down to the pit lane. Andy McEwen is there and going to talk to someone who's had maybe some problems in the early stage of this race.
Well, no problems yet. Hopefully you haven't put the curse on them there, Ian. I'm down here at the area motorsport end of the pit lane, catching up with Alistair Camp, TCR UK race winner. Got to get that in there now. Bigging you up nicely, and rightfully so, really. Your car leading the class, David in it at the moment, and you seem to be one of the few cars to have had a clean start.
Yeah, we're going well at the minute. Dave's driving well, as he does. He obviously knows the car in and out. And yeah, he asked me to come and have a ride around with him this weekend, see what we can do. And yeah, we seem pretty even on pace, so hopefully we can keep going as Dave's going now.
A track that you love, you've had success here in the past, of course, in other categories, fairly recently, in fact. So any excuse to get out there and enjoy Donington, right?
Yeah, 100%. 10 minutes from home, can't beat it.
Exactly. I believe you've just done a bit of a mad dash to get down here. You saw the safety car was out, and you were, let's say, doing some research in the grandstand, were you?
Yeah, stood in the grandstand with Little and had to do the dash to the toilet, get him to the mist and down here.
Worked well for you, though. You managed to get down, and in the end, actually not pitting yet under the safety car. When will you be jumping in, do you think? Soonish?
Yeah, I'll probably be looking around the hour mark, but I said to Dave, if he's got a gap, keep going, don't just come in for the sake of it. Obviously, we're here to get tin pots, aren't we?
Exactly, and to do that, you need to get the strategy right. We'll leave you to it, Alistair. Thank you very much for having a chat. I was going to see if I could catch Rob Baker, but I think he's hiding inside. I might see if I can find him in a moment, because his car, of course, is up there contending for the overall lead. Safety car in, though, and racing getting back underway.
Yep, so safety car lights are out. Safety car is in the pit lane, and we have one car a long way front of everybody else, therefore, with not everyone having gone at the same pace once the race has got back underway by the looks of it, Josh.
Yeah, the back markers haven't got the speed of the leading car, so actually that means Brad Burns has got a bigger lead than he had before the safety car, somewhat unusually. Big challenges there as Phil Nib looks around the outside of Will Stacey for fourth. They've got to watch out though, because there's a Mazda MX-5 on the exit of the corner. They both were able to tighten their line enough to squeeze past it, so it's a 9-second advantage for Burns over Lidsey, then Oswick and Stacey and Nib and Grice. The fast 6 cars really we've got this weekend. There's that car that was slow behind the leader.
Edward Christie, yeah, so that's got problems.
So that's why that big gap emerged. There's our Class B leader, Scott Harkin, the championship leader as well. He's had 3 wins this season in Class B, which came at Croft, Anglesey and... apologies, they came at Croft, Spa and Snetterton, I should say, for Scott Park in those Class B victories. And that is putting him on the way to a potential championship this season, but he's being chased down by Kevin Glover As they right on his tail now, Glover, and they've got a 10-second differential of pit stop times, and that could come back into the advantage of the Glover and Schlevitz pairing. And it was a really close contest between those two cars last time out at Snetterton too, and they're just working their way through the traffic.
I suspect we're going to get some pit stops before much longer, so let's quickly run down the order just before that happens. So it's number 1, Bradley Burns leading, number 40, Brett Lidsey is second, number 2, Joel Oswick is third, number 48, Will Stacey is fourth, 5th is number 92, Phil Nibbert with a 15-second penalty, 6th is number 27, Mark Grice with a 5-second penalty, 7th is number 15, Colin Gillespie, 8th and leading Class B is Scott Parkin, 9th and second in Class B is Kevin Glover, 10th is the 117 car of Martin Gadsby, and further back in Class C it is David Lawrence leading from Cale Kelts and Johnny Hayes.
And while you're saying that, there was a change towards the sharp end because Joel Oswick has taken second position away from Brett Lidsey in that traffic, so the M4 moves ahead of the M3 as Oswick gets second position then away from Brett Lidsey, but they are now 11 seconds behind Bradley Burns. So actually that safety car worked pretty well. We've got a touring car battle, and it looks like it's getting quite touring car-esque at this stage between Phil Nibb and Mark Grice. Not quite sure how that all began. But it looks like Phil Nibb has held on ahead of Mark Grice, but it looked like that was getting quite aggressive for a moment there.
A bit of rubbing going on, wasn't it? It seemed between Phil Nibb and Mark Grice. Both of those drivers having picked up penalties during the course of the race for exceeding track limits so far.
Another car in strife is the Mazda MX-5, the Ben Short and Ben Hansey car with a wheel bearing failure down there in the pit lane, which is a shame for the Mark 1 turbocharged car. There's that battle then between the two Seats of different forms, both built by the factory, but Nibb's car, the old Seat in Euro Cup spec, where Mark Grice's car was built for the TCR regulations.
That 481 car, it seemed to be back up to speed now. I don't think it was quite at the full pace as the race resumed, which did cause a delay, and obviously drivers doing the right thing not to overtake it until they got past the green flag and the timing line.
Masses of cars here coming down towards the Melbourne Loop. This is about of a temp spot, and the Lynch M3 goes up ahead of Martin Gadsby's Compact. You've got the GTR just behind of the Browds family, and then Matthew Stockford's Audi, all involved in this battle for 10th position. They're trying to lap the Class C cars, which is getting pretty busy as they come out of the final corner and up across the line to complete 19 laps of racing. And then 3 or 4 wide in places there. They're lapping David Lawrence and Mike Hooper as well. A new driver to racing this season in that Mazda MX-5. He's just gone a lap down on his class leader, David Lawrence, but that's quite a battle. And a good recovery, this, from problems in qualifying for the William and Freddie Lynch car up into the top 10 from the back of the grid. That car there, 176.
Yeah, and the car behind it is 76, which is Michael Downey, who's a lap down. There's the Martin Gadsby car, until recently was inside of the top 10. He had a reasonable run yesterday in road sports, as cars turning their way through McLean's and on towards Coppice Corner. The leaders are currently working lap 20 of the race. On the last lap we did get some green lap times, so drivers setting personal best lap times. Joel Oswick, Brett Lidsey, Will Stacey and Colin Gillespie all doing personal bests towards the sharp end of the field on the previous lap. Possibly, that was the first lap again after the restart.
Another 10-second exceeding track limit penalty for Mark Grice. They're up to 15 now.
As the Audi has been off, but back on again. The Stockford car, that's back on again. That was a Coppice where it had a moment.
A slightly concerning rejoin because the car sort of went straight across the circuit, but thankfully nothing was alongside. So there's confirmation of Phil Nibb's 15-second penalty.
And fastest lap of the race, 1:40.63 he has now done, so he's gone 100th faster than the Bradley Burns car did early on in the race. So that is a further reduction, but still outside the 1:39.75 lap record.
This is about of a second in Class C. Cale Kelts in that German Autoworks BMW that won the championship last year. Not far behind it is Johnny Hayes, the driver from Shrewsbury, who finished second in the class championship last year, and he's running third in this race in that 1999 Compact with a 2.8 litre engine. And there it is, car number 66 that he shares with Paul Saviani. And this was the car that won the class last time out at Snetterton.
Yep, so Kelts and Hayes coming through. There's the 112 car, and that is the car. You can see the license plates on the back of it. It's the car of Manoj Patel. Tom Gannon it is, driving it in the early stages of the race, the Honda Civic.
10 seconds is the lead margin for Bradley Burns. We're looking at the just ahead of the Gannon car as the car second in Class B for Kevin Glover, the 34-year-old mechanic from Herefordshire. Raced in the Production GTI Championship last year. It's his first season of racing, I think. No, apologies, he's raced over quite some more time, hasn't he? But in the Production GTI Championship, also in Britcar and Track Day Champion too. It's a 2-litre TSI-powered Mark 7 Volkswagen Golf prepared by Jammer Sport that Luke Schlavitz, his co-driver, is well involved with. And they are currently running 3.5 seconds behind the class leader Scott Parkin in the diesel TDI Golf ahead.
So I've had about 40 minutes of this race so far. 21 laps completed by the race leaders. We'll be getting into that period of the race, the middle third of the race now, where we'll start to get pit stops, I would think, as well.
Well, this is what Germany Autoworks did at Snetterton, Joel Oswick. They came in early at Snetterton because every other round this season had safety cars. So they filled the car up, think, yep, we go from here. There was no safety cars. The car ran out of fuel with 2 laps of the race to go. So I wonder if there's a little bit of thinking about that, about some of the competitors thinking we don't want to go too early. We don't want to make that mistake because that's a big issue. So that is something that did happen in that previous round at Snetterton when they were running in a podium position. Joel Oswick's second here today because their thinking was run the car as light as possible because it's such a competitive championship. But well, if you're running it light enough that there's no fuel in the car, that goes against the object, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. We were watching a moment ago Kevin Glover in the second place Class B car, the Jabba Sport car that's shared with Luke Stavitz. There it is again. Just on camera now. There's the Manoj Patel Tom Gallen car, the 117 car of Martin Gadsby also going through. 22, Luke Browse in the green BMW as well. The Stone Market Glass car into the pits has come Phil Nib. Also, by the looks of it, Keith Fryer heading into the pit lane. So we are now starting to see some pit stops and Phil Nib. Now, is that for a stop, or I wonder if there's any kind of further penalty that needs to serve? Not sure if we can keep an eye on that one, whether that is one that stops at its pit or not.
Battle of the 10th continues between the Lynch family BMW and Martin Gadsby's car. So that battle is ongoing. And you've got the Browse car in there as well, the Stone Market Glass machine.
There's the Keith Fry in Thornton. Well, Ian Thornton's not getting into the car there, so it doesn't look like it's a scheduled stop. It's not quite ready, to be honest with you, to get into the car. So, yeah, possibly a problem there for the Honda of Keith Fry.
Can't see Phil Nib's car in the pits.
No, which suggests it might have just driven through. I wonder if it's got another penalty. We'll see. In fact, we'll see if we pick it up on circuit again. It may have just had a drive-through penalty as the next step up from the 15 seconds it had already garnered. That was my thinking there, but no confirmation of that at this stage.
There's the Class B leader, Scott Parkin, the 33-year-old owner of Darkside Developments from Barnsley in South Yorkshire, leading Class B by now 7 seconds over Kevin Glover, extending that lead out. Chris Plaskett is in third. Fourth is the car we just saw there, Chris Webster, who shares this 2.5-litre Duratec engine Ginetta G40 with the car with Matthew Tidmarsh. Chris Webster, I think, is the owner of the car that he bought from Rothko.
It's a bit patched up, isn't it, after some dramas yesterday in the road sports race.
Now, what's happened to Brett Lidsey? He's not come through. So car number 40, the car that was running in third position, has not come through at the end of 23 laps.
Yeah, as far as we know, it's not just in the pits.
It's now come through late, so is it a slow lap into the pit lane? We'll try and pick that up for you in a few moments.
Yeah, it is in the pit lane, isn't it? But quite a long lap. You can see it's parked there at 45 degrees as per the requirements in the championship. Park at an angle because the pit lane can get very congested.
Yeah, Brett Lidsey not getting out in a hurry, so again, is this not as scheduled as they would like it to be.
Well, it's a 3-minute stop anyway, isn't it? So there's no...
Front left tyre's come off,
rush.
and I think that was the team with the front left tyre off. Fuel only coming out now.
There's clearly some drama in the pit lane there. There is the Michael Downey car coming towards us. He is in 21st position at the moment. As back out into the race goes the Keith Fryer Honda Civic Type R. Now we can see what's going on once again with the number 40 car, Josh.
Damage to the car. The front right wing is not on the car anymore, is it?
No.
So there is damage to that car. So Andy McEwen won't be far away to investigate what's going on here to a car that was looking for a good result potentially. So for James Collins and Rhett Lidsey, potential, well, it is an issue, I think, isn't it? They might be turning it into a mandatory stop, but it might be a larger issue than they would have first liked it to have been. This, though, perhaps more scheduled for Mark Grice.
Yeah, 27 is in the pits from 4th position with 75 minutes of the race remaining. We're going to get Will Beach taking over for the remainder of the race. Looks like there's fuel going into the car as well, so everyone else is clear of the car while that is happening. Yeah, the confirmation that from Andy McEwen down there that in the Brett Lidsey pit stop the air jacket exploded, but that's what caused a little bit of drama down there in the pit lane. Originally it was just going to be for a left front tyre change. The refuelling of the Capture Motorsport Cooper is ongoing. Another tank required, so that's the car from 4th position. That's the car that's got a 15-second penalty. Yeah, the Phil Nib car is still circulating, isn't it? I didn't notice its last lap time, but presumably that was a drive-through penalty that it had to serve.
Yeah, because we saw the car come in, didn't we?
Yeah.
So that was, because you were wondering if that's the next thing on for the track limits.
Yeah, so that looks like that is the case. Will Stacey's just on his personal best lap of 1 minute 40.93. He's only less than a second now behind the Joel Oswick BMW M4 that's running in 2nd place. So that's what we can see on screen now. Heading up to Redgate Corner. In fact, the gap has gone out that time by all of a 100th of a second. They did almost identical lap times, Joel Oswick and Will Stacey, two of the younger drivers in the field in the previous lap.
Joel Oswick 21 from Hertfordshire. There he is in that German Auto Works BMW M4 from 2016. Joel Oswick in his 3rd season of racing. Last year's Class C champion, moved up to this Class A M4 this year with the twin turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine, and there's the teammate car. Yeah,
Cale Keltz. It's still got Joel Oswick's name on it from last season, but Cale Keltz it is that's driving the car this weekend, the American, in his first races. So back to Joel Oswick's current mount, the M4, the number 2 machine, and he's feeling a little bit of pressure here from Will Stacey. A reminder that Oswick, I don't think, has got any extra pit penalty to serve, has he? And nor has Will Stacey. I think that's right. So both of them could be in a pretty good position for a win here, I would think. Yeah,
this could well be the battle for the lead of the race after the stops.
Yeah, because Bradley Burns has got a 30-second stop, or extra stop to serve when he hands over to Rob Baker.
I suspect they'll change the front tyres in their pit stop. That's what they did at Snetterton. Actually, it went a little bit wrong. The wheel nuts wouldn't quite sit properly, so they lost a bit of time because of that. But with an extra long pit stop this time out, I suspect that's what we'll see. Here's that car we saw earlier, the M2 35i of David Embury, new driver in this Climax prepared BMW. The 2 Series. We've got a 2 Series, we've got a 3 Series, a 4 Series, and a 1 Series BMW on this grid, haven't we? So we've got sort of the full complement of racing specification BMWs on this grid, because I don't really think you'd race anything higher than a 4 Series, because those cars get rather large and heavy. But the M2, a good racing car.
Absolutely. As we watched the Hazel behind the BMW just disappear down the craners. That is the car that is now in 4th position, isn't it? Number 15, Colin Gillespie, as other drivers have started to make stops or have penalties. So Colin Gillespie in 4th position, the car he shares with Phil Dryborough. There's the Nib car, the one which we think has served a penalty in the pits.
Yeah, that's right. And is in 5th, but catching the car ahead. There's Johnny Hayes, 2nd in Class C, currently 18 seconds behind David Lawrence. But now obviously with Cal Kelts in the pit lane, has moved up to 2nd spot in that ex-Leah McGill car, which is prepared by CRM Tech. And you can clearly see it's number 66 as it turns its way out of the S's and onto the Grand Prix loop.
Cal Kelts getting back out into the race in the German Auto Works car with the Bicycle House sponsorship as well.
It's Oswick into the pit lane. Now they've done that stop. Either way, the positions have changed for 2nd place. So is that because Oswick has pitted, or has Will Stacey got ahead of Joel Oswick on the road for 2nd position? We will try and pick that up for you as quickly as possible. So there's the Lidsey Collins car back out, but possibly lost time in the pit stop with that drama.
Showing 25th in the classification as things stand. The Lidsey and Collins BMW.
Here's Stacey, has got ahead of Oswick, so Oswick did not pit, but the positions have changed for 2nd place. The 2nd of those, Rob Boston Racing Lotus Elises, is the Class A car, and that is Will Stacey, the double winner from this season. There he is, 48. He's got ahead of Joel Oswick on the road, so he's slowly working his way through the order.
Yep, and just lapping the team car, Peter Mansfield, Mike Sanford's Elisa, so I think still Pete Mansfield at the wheel there.
At Snetterton, I think the plan is that Peter Mansfield will do the whole race, but if he's feeling not up to it, Mike Sanford, who's a mechanic at Rob Boston Racing, will jump in the car. But for Will Stacey, we believe he's going to be racing with Rob Boston today, as he did at Anglesey. So when Andy McEwen turns up, Rob Boston races the car, it seems.
Yeah.
And that gap at 10 seconds has been pretty equal since the safety car came in. So that's interesting how that's the pace of the 2 cars is going. So is Oswick starting to struggle with tyres now on that car? We've got a lot of power. They actually detuned the car from earlier in the year, because if you remember at Croft, that car was sort of a rocket ship in the straight line, but it was very heavy, so wore its tyres out. So they worked to lower the horsepower and to lighten the car up, and that I think has been generally successful, but he doesn't have the pace that Will Stacey has. It's been a very different type of race from Will Stacey to what we're used to, because he usually gets to the front and tries to drive away and build a margin, but this time he's attacking from behind, but it's working out for him at the moment because he's risen to 2nd and in a prime position with the extra pit stop time we are expecting from the leading car.
We are 8 minutes short of halfway through this race at the moment. Still Bradley Burns leading. Gap down to less than 10 seconds out. Off the road has gone Will Beach. Well, he's only just gone into the race, hasn't he? Having taken over from Mark Rice. He's been off the circuit there at Redgate Corner, but he's back out into it now. He's just pulled back onto the track ahead of one of the Mazda MX-5. But some dramas there for Will Beach. But we're going to head down to the pit lane now. Andy McEwen is down there to see who else has got to talk to this time.
Well, as we just saw, we've had a change for 2nd place in the race, with Will Stacey moving the Lotus a bit further up the order now, here with his co-driver, Rob Boston, who's going to be jumping in for the 2nd half of the race. And Rob, he's going well out there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going very well. We started P6, we've been chipping away. Will's been putting in a really, really good performance. Yeah, and we're coming towards the hour mark now in P2. We had to do a gearbox change yesterday. So we're not running the optimal gearbox. We've got a manual H-pattern gearbox as opposed to sequential, which is hampering him a little bit, but we're hoping for reliability. So, to finish first he must finish. So he's doing very well, he's coping very well, and we're not too far off, so we'll keep plugging away.
Well, and let's face it, he ain't going slowly out there either, is he? It's not hampering him that much.
No, I mean, I'll be honest with you, with this other gearbox, with the sequential, and I think this would be looking quite comfortable right now, but it's all the same. We're putting our best foot forward, and he's doing pretty damn well.
You've been caught out in the past in these races through strategy and safety cars and whatnot. You've not chosen to make an early pit stop. Any thoughts on why that might be?
Honestly, we thought whilst the car's reliable, we'll just keep going. We'll go, nice and deep into this stint, and then if we need to, I'm not expecting to, but it gives us the best opportunity to do a later stop. Any mechanical issues can be dealt with to limit to the end. So, it's probably not the best frame of mind, but I think it's, given our results this year with the Lotus, is our best strategy. So that's the plan.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rob. I'll let you get back to the screens now. Rob Boston then looking forward, I'm sure, to getting out on track, hopefully in a car that is contending for the race win.
So 66 minutes of this race left to go. There is our race leader. That is Bradley Burns. He's just put a lap on the number 8 car, the Ginetta G40, being driven by Chris Webster. He's 9 seconds ahead of Rob Boston at the moment. So that gap has stayed at around 9 seconds for the last few laps now.
Good bit of information there we learnt, didn't we, from Rob Boston about the gearbox. So that is why perhaps they haven't seen the raw pace of the Lotus we have seen this year, that they're on a manual gearbox rather than sequential. But it's going well. The gap is coming down. Will Stacey's just at the fastest lap of that car's race, 1 minute 40.76, and the lead gap down to 8 seconds, which is the smallest it has been since the safety car came in.
Into the pits has come number 11. That's the Honda, the S2000. Charlie Dark handing over to Dan Orsano, who raced alongside Joel Oswick last season in their way to Class C glory. And so the refuelling now going on once the driver is clear of the car. And that has to be also covered by someone with the appropriate extinguisher and so forth, just in case the worst happens. Black flag there. Someone's getting a drive-through penalty by the looks of it. A car with 2 digits in the number, which doesn't terribly narrow it down, but looks like someone else is going to get a drive-through penalty there.
Battle for 4th is developing because Colin Gillespie has been caught by Phil Knibb. So we've got an all-Sayat battle again as Phil Knibb makes progress.
That's on the road, isn't it? But of course they still have this 15-second penalty to be added to their time as well.
Yeah, I guess really in the second half of the race is where we look at those a bit more. For now, he's just trying to make track position.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then progress forwards for Phil Knibb. They're in P5. Down into the S's.
Yeah, they're about 25-30 seconds behind Oswick, aren't they, in 3rd place at the moment, so a fair way behind him.
Gillespie and Driver very much involved in the Class A Championship battle, just 5 points behind Bryson Beach, the leaders, who are 4 ahead of Baker and Burns, and then just a point further back to Gillespie and Driver, and then a further 8 points back to Stacey and Boston, then 2 points to Parkin and Brichter, and then another 2 points to Oswick, so it's very close in the Class A Championship battle.
Quite a few cars in the pit lane now. So we've got the Thornton and Fryer car, the 11 car I've mentioned. Also that 168 M235i. So David Embury handing over to Simon Glenn there in that car. So a few cars making their stops. I think we'll see more to do so in the coming laps, won't we? Because we are approaching the halfway mark of this race now.
Yeah, Simon Glenn getting in that car as you just mentioned for Hartford. The driver with 4 Nürburgring 24-hour starts. Get aboard that M2 that was started there. A few more track limit penalties coming in. 5-second penalties now for 10 and 20 as well. So that's the Ginetta, Andrew Shepherd and Rob Fennick, and Vito Papirias' Honda. Battle of 4th carries on. They're getting past James Collins, who's back out there after that dramatic pit stop. And that car is now in 23rd. And the lead in pit stop, I think, is 17th, and that is Will Beach. So they did lose quite a lot of time, as perhaps expected, in the pit stop. There's Martin Gadsby, who is 7th currently in the BMW Compact, driving solo this time out in the 3.2 litre car. He's still involved in a battle with Luke Browds. I think this has been an hour-long battle, really, between those two.
Yeah, separated by about 0.6 of a second there in P7 and P8 at the moment. The 176 car there, you can see in the pit lane. That's the Lynch BMW that had come from the back up into the top 10.
Looked like it might have been William Lynch that started that. Looks like he just jumped out the car. Good first stint, working his way through the order in the Todd Motorsport BMW with some interesting graphics there just to the left of your picture. Fuel going in. And there is Tom Gannon, who you mentioned earlier. Is it still him, or has he handed over now to... I think he might have handed over now to the car owner, Manoj Patel, who's been racing this car for a while now.
Yeah, certainly has. Running in 26th position at the moment. We've had a few drivers and retirements. So we started with 37, I think. We've lost, I think, probably half a dozen of those cars already. I think we've got 31 that are still in the race at this point in time. I think we're at one point had sort of 39 or even 40 cars possible for the grid today, but a few didn't make it into qualifying this morning.
Now Scott Parkin has just dropped down the timing screen. Does that mean he's in the pits?
Oh, and the Browse car, Luke Browse, who was in that battle with Martin Gadsby, that's had a spin at Redgate Corner, so that battle coming to an abrupt end, it would seem.
It's 89 Scott Parkin. It's not come through. The Class B leader. Now, is he in the pit lane, or is that a drama for the championship leader, car number 89?
We can see the treble 3 car of Michael Hooper in the pits. We can see Ben Williams in the Capture Motorsport Cupra there as well in the background. Darren Ball sharing that car. He'll be into it for the second half of the race. That's the car that was in the gravel trap earlier on for Totas Piperas in the Honda Civic. Edward Christie just going through shot as well. So we've had just about an hour of this race now. We've got Nib ahead of Colin Gillespie now on the road as well for 4th position.
Scott Parkin is in the pit, so the Class B and championship leader in the pit lane.
Okay, so good that there's no sort of further drama as far as that is concerned. That's Daniel Salo in the Honda now out in the second part of this race.
24th position. We'll turn to the pits. Mike Hooper, the 36-year-old from Gloucestershire, handing over to Thomas Steadman from Warwick in this 2009 Mazda MX-5 with a 2-litre engine, standard car, Jonathan Cryer car. And they made their debut, I think, at Alton Park earlier in the season. The Hansi short car's back. That's the car that had an issue earlier with a wheel bearing failure, they thought. So I think they've fixed that up and they've got back out there. Interesting roof on that car.
I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah, so they've clearly decided to sort of tack that on over the over the roll cage. Not a proper hard top, but I don't know, it keeps the rain off, I suppose.
At the last meeting, we had the Alan Henderson and Daniel Irving MX-5, which is based on a Mark 1. I think it wouldn't be unfair to say they are prepared in slightly different ways. They're also built to different specifications as well, but good to have the Short and Hansi car out this weekend and back into the race after some time in the pits.
It's the top 3 at the moment. The gaps are pretty similar. They're all lapping more or less in the high 141s at the moment. Only a few tenths per second between Burns and Stacey and Oswick are top 3 here. So this is not really what Bradley Burns needs. He needed to be able to sort of make some ground. If anything, the lead that he had 10 seconds after the safety car has been very slightly eroded here, hasn't it? And of course he's got that 30-second extra to serve in the pit stops when he hands over to Rob Baker. So that's not really working out for him, I don't think.
Now that Simon Glenn in that M2, that looks like it's moving along pretty well, doesn't it? Trying to get past the S2000. That car running in 28th position after its pit stop. The Honda is in 22nd, so there is a lap between those two cars. But Simon Glenn's got ahead on the road, so trying to make good progress in this second hour of the race. And let's say, it looks like Simon's pushing on pretty strongly at this point. 35 laps done by the race leader, Bradley Burns. 8.3 seconds ahead of Will Stacey, still being chased by Joel Oswick. So yeah, that does appear that it's going to be Stacey / Boston versus Oswick, but we heard from Rob Boston, whose confidence in that car lasting 2 hours didn't seem particularly high after the head gasket issues they've had at the last meetings. It had a very strong start to the season where they One at Crofton Anglesey, but I don't think cars finished a race since then, which has been rather limiting on their success. There's Johnny Hayes, I think, still at the wheel, is he? Was that car pitted now? It may have done. Yeah, it has, because it's back behind Cale Kelt. So I think that's now Paul Saviani at the wheel. 30 seconds behind Cale Kelt. So they would have had a longer stop because they were the winners last time out.
Yes, that's right.
And there's Alistair Camp taking over from David Lawrence.
Yeah, and that is the car that was leading Class C. So David Lawrence has done just about half of the race, and Alistair Campers is going out for the second part.
I think that's one of the foundation cars from Tegiwa from the beginning of the season.
That's right, yeah. And there was a foundation put together to get some more of these onto the grid.
So I think they should still lead the class, assuming that was a good pit stop. I think Class C pit stops have happened sort of at our point where the Class A cars are continuing on. Seemingly nobody wanted to make that same mistake that we saw in the previous round at Snetterton. So everyone going long other than the Grice and Beach car. Let's back up to 11th after their pit stop.
The nib car's going down the timing screen there. Is that's not been into the pits yet for a driver change? Is that into the pits now? It may well be. The number 92 car off film. Look for Totas Piperas car certainly in the pit lane, I can see. But whether the 92 car is as well, not quite certain, but I'm assuming it is for the moment. There's the Piperas car. We saw it gone off into the gravel trap, hence it's a little on the dirty side. And also, is that a flat tyre on the right front?
Very low if it's not.
Yeah, it's not looking in the best of health, is it? I say definitely that. If it can, will need to be replaced. Or that car's going to be out of the race, I would think.
Now Phil Nibb's been timed at 3 minutes 21, which is a very long lap, but not a pit stop.
Not long enough to be a pit stop lap. So possibly there's just an issue for Phil Nibb out on circuit there that we didn't see.
It almost feels like 2 laps, where the transponder might have missed a lap, but possibly not.
Yes, it could just about be credibly 2 very good laps, couldn't it?
So we'll see what's done about that. But here's Alistair Camp then, leading the way in Class C in his first proper endurance race, I think, for the 2-time Hot Hatch champion, and as Andy McEwen referenced earlier, TCR UK winner, I think, in their most recent race, which was here at Donington, I think. I'm sure Andy can correct me if that's not right. But Alistair Camp then leading Class C with Dave Lawrence, the car owner, who started that one with good success, it seems. Lead gap now 6.7 seconds. Will Stacey is chipping away at Bradley Burns' lead.
She's coming down by a few tenths over each of the last couple of laps, I think.
Change for 10th on the screen now, Ian, because Mark Grice, who handed over to Will B, that car that's already made a pit stop now, moves into the top 10 ahead of Joe Williams.
Yeah, Joe Williams in the number 88 Volkswagen Golf there from Class B, the driver from Lempstead. There is the car that was third. That's the number 2 car, German Auto Works car of Joel Oswick, last year's champion. And he's now waiting to get back into the race once the car has been refueled.
Seemingly didn't need too much, because only one churn went in, and now the car being prepared, I think, for Joel Oswick to get back in. Just being adjustments made to his comfort. And there's the car he raced last year with great success. He won the Young Driver Award, I think.
He did, yes, John Miles Young Driver Award as well, which had a cash prize attached to it. And 750 Motor Club also contributing entry fees to this season as well, as part of that prize. So yeah, very well deserving winner last year, young Joel Oswick, for his performances in Club Enduro. Car, being driven by Cale Kelt this weekend. Just behind it on the road is the number 91 car, that's Christopher Plaskett. Where is he as things stand? I think, has he dropped down the order, which might suggest a pit stop has been made? There's the 22 car, so that's Luke Browse in now to hand over to Father Paul. That was a car we saw off the road earlier.
Chris Plaskett actually leads Class B so far up the order. Neither of us could see him. He's in sixth position.
Yeah, so he's not made a stop, and others have. I think, Kevin Glover and Luke Slavitz, I think, haven't they?
Perhaps they're in the pits at the moment.
Yeah, could be, couldn't they? But yeah, Plaskett yet to make a stop then. 6th overall is how far up the order he is. And he'll have to make a stop soon. There's the 68 car Ian Thornton now aboard that, I would think. Drive from Bridgnorth. 50 minutes left to go in the race. And it is less than 6 seconds now, the gap between the two leaders, Bradley Burns and Rob Boston, so it's continued to come down in recent laps. There is the Class B leader, number 91, Chris Plaskett.
Yeah, he's 32 years of age, he's a car dealer from Surrey. Only started racing last season in this area motorsport 2-litre GTI Volkswagen Golf. And probably slot down a couple of positions after its pit stop within Class B, but it's going long in the opening stint. As you can see at the top of your screen, we've had a new fastest lap of the race from Will Stacey, a 1:40.39.
And the gap's down to less than 4 seconds now, 3.58 seconds the gap. It was a slower lap from Bradley Burns, a 1:42.77 as well. So even before the stops here, Will Stacey challenging and threatening the race-leading Volkswagen Golf.
Absolutely right. So a battle for the victory is very much on, regardless of that success penalty for the win last time out for Bradley Burns and for Will Stake and for Rob Baker. Here's Stacey, just checking that the Golf hasn't pitted, because I can't see it in front of Stacey. Oh no, it's still there, so he's still chasing it down. So Bradley Burns and Will Stacey both going long on this opening stint of the race. The pit window doesn't close till 15 minutes to go, so there's a long time the pit window is still open for. So the strategy is wide open, which means you can sort of do a long first stint, as these two competitors are.
Now you might remember we lost Ryan Parkin very early on in the race. And he's told Andy McEwen that they've been suffering with fuel surge issues all weekend, as off the road has gone the 176 car there of the Lynches, and also off the road has gone the Alistair Camp car as well, the 56 car, the car that leads Class C, and had been leading Class C. David Lawrence having started that car, that's gone off the road as well. Now if that's connected with the other car that got off, I'm not quite sure.
A lot of damage, isn't there, to Alistair Camp's car?
I think there was a bit of trim hanging off before that.
I was looking at the front. The bonnet is well dented. Both wheel trims on the left-hand side are damaged, but I think Alistair Camp was brought in here by Dave Lawrence so they could have a successful day, but unfortunately Alistair Camp hasn't been in the car very long before it's gone all very wrong.
Yeah, but just to finish off what we're saying about Ryan Parkin, as we've still got the yellow flags waving there. Fuel surge all weekend. They thought the car was just low on fuel, but no fuel, but then it just cut out completely on lap 2 of the race. So that's the reason why we lost Ryan Parkin in the very early stages.
Alistair Camp's taken a shortcut to get back to the pit lane. He's got a front left puncture, I think. So that might be the drama then for Alistair Camp for the pit. Now this could be a critical time for others to stop, and I think that's Colin Gillespie into the pit lane. Another black flag going out by the looks of things for another penalty.
Yeah, a few penalties being required, I'm afraid.
So is that bonnet damaged, or is it just a bit of an illusion?
I think there is some damage there. I think there has been some contact, hasn't there?
So how far behind was the Saviani car in Class C? Oh, Kyle Kelts, actually. He was right just 6 seconds behind, so Kyle Kelts has gone through to take the Class C lead. And presumably that lap for Alistair Camp will be deleted because he took the shortcut through the national circuit.
Yeah. So
big losses here, and what a debut weekend this could be for Kyle Kelts if he can pick up the Class C victory. He is about 25 seconds ahead.
Well, that car's got onto the circuit. It's now smoking very heavily. That was the car that was stuck in the gravel track. Now, is it putting any fluid down on the circuit?
Damage
on the tyre. It's just tyre, I think, when it went bodywork there.
Where do you think that car was in the gravel? Did we work that out?
Was it McLean's?
And that's where Alistair Camp was going through the gravel.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, that may have been related, those two cars with damage. And we've had a change for the lead because Will Stacey goes through as the leader. Now that could be because Rob Baker and these co-driver could be in the pit lane. Bradley Burns could have brought the car into the pits, so we'll see if we can work that one out. But still there in the pit lane. Is that the car alongside? Yes, that was Bradley Burns' car into the pit lane. So Will Stacey takes the lead because Bradley Burns has pitted. But there is not the need for the safety car that there may have been with that car in the gravel as it dug its way out.
No, it's probably worth a throw of the dice to try and make that stop, so at least some of it would be behind the safety car. Because you can't enter the pits while the safety car is out. You can complete your stop if you're already in there. And yeah, there was a chance, of course, that a safety car might have been required to deal with that situation, but it hasn't been required in the event with both Alistair Camp and the Lynch car making its way back to the pit lane.
So not very few people are left to pit, I think.
One of them being the leader, which is the car on screen now, the 48 car of Will Stacey. He's stayed out for at least one more lap. He's got half an hour more to go, hasn't he, before he needs to make a stop. As you were saying earlier, Josh, the pit window only closes with 15 minutes of the race to go.
There's Joel Oswick, who is our leading stopper so far in 5th position.
Yeah.
But on the next lap round, we need to see where he comes out in comparison to Rob Baker. It should be ahead, though, assuming the German Autoworks pit stop went to plan.
Yes, you would think so, and we'll see how that pans out, because of course it is a 3-minute 30-second stop to be made by Burns to hand over to Rob Baker.
There's Will Beach, so it's quite a big gap he's behind the cars that lead in Class A. And there's Scott Parkin just behind the little Lotus Elise of Peter Mansfield, potentially sharing with Mike Sanford. So the cars turn their way through. There's a short Hansi car, so that's carried on. Now there's 15, so presumably is that pit stop done for Colin Gillespie and Phil Dryber? I thought I saw that car pop into the pits.
Yeah, I think you were right.
So we'll see where that comes through next time. Might be in a positive position.
Hazen Subiani, I think that's Subiani now in the car, isn't it? That is in second within the class behind Kale Goetz now. They're 21st and 23rd respectively. Lawrence and Camp, they're, well, at least 2 laps now behind the class leader Kale Goetz, but still showing in third on the screen at the moment.
Yeah, but that pit stop's elongated. That means the Mike Hooper and Thomas Stedman car could be on for a podium just like it was last time out.
And there's the race leader into the pits, Will Stacey. And so with 43 minutes of the race left, Will Stacey clambering out of the car, has to be out of the car before the refuelling can commence.
So there goes the Golf. 2 laps down, I think, from Stacey. So has Rob Baker got out ahead of Joel Oswick? I think we'll have to wait another lap before we get the confirmation of that one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Should be behind though, really. Really, the action is going to be when Oswick comes round versus when Rob Boston gets out into the race.
That's right.
I think Chris Plaskett's not pitted yet because he's up to second. He might well lead the race if he stays out there.
I think he might do, yes. Which is a feather in the cap. But he does, of course, still need to make the stop. I'm trying to think, is there any other drivers that we know of that have yet to make their stop that is of any note whatsoever?
Don't think. Oh, maybe Peter Mansfield. Yeah, Peter Mansfield to Mike Sanford, that's 11th.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think we're probably all done for pit stops, as you should expect, as we're headed into the final third of the race. So there goes Rob Baker. So he has to do another whole lap, doesn't he, before we can find out exactly where he is in comparison to Rob Boston. But at the end of this lap, we should find out where he is in comparison to Joel Oswick.
Yeah.
Who may well be... Yeah, Oswick across the line now is the leading pit stopper. So number 2 has jumped number 1 in the pit stops, as we thought would happen, because of that success penalty.
So let's see what the gap's going to be then. Over the line any moment now is going to go Rob Baker. So the gap between them is going to be about 21 seconds, isn't it? Something like that.
Which makes sense, because it was about 10 seconds at a 30 seconds differential.
Which suggests both of their pit stops are about the same length.
Is the Lawrence car going into the garage? The Class C Championship leading car looks like it was going into the garage there. So we're looking at Rob Baker, but we know that car is probably going to drop down the order in this pit stop period. There's Will Stacey giving Rob Boston a few words of advice, perhaps, about how the car is feeling. Really, we'll pick up number 2 if we can, Joe Oswick, the BMW, because where he comes out, where he is in comparison to Rob Boston, is the race for the victory in reality. So we're looking for number 2, which I think the Lotus pit stop coming to an end in.
Yeah, as the Stacey and Boston car being pushed back out and into the pit lane and back out into the race. So I think it is going to have lost track position, is it?
Yeah, the BMW's at the final corner, so I think Rob Boston's going to be ahead.
Looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah, just looking at where that car is now. That's just about to come across the line, and I would think that we'll see in a moment that Boston is probably somewhere around Hollywood at the moment.
Good shot for the 2 German Autoworks cars, because they're both in shot together there at that moment. But yeah, the Rob Boston racing team have got that car turned around seemingly in good time, and Rob Boston then is the effective leader, although the actual leader at this point is going to be Chris Plaskett's Golf, yet to pit. But the effective leader is going to be Rob Boston in 48. Second is going to be 2 Joel Oswick. And third is going to be 1 Rob Baker. And now over the remaining 40 minutes, we need to find out the pace of these 3 cars. 2 of them with different drivers in now.
There's Rob Boston, I think that is, up at McLean's on screen now for those of you watching on the live stream. There is Oswick. And a bit further back, you're going to have the Baker car about 20 seconds behind it.
Yes, I think Rob Baker's task is difficult, but Rob Boston versus Joel Oswick is an intriguing one. You wouldn't expect Rob Boston to be any slower than Will Stacey, really, but whether it'll be any quicker, I think, is a question. Will Much has raced that car a lot more. Well, I'm sure Rob Boston's done some testing. There's Rob Baker, who's effectively 3rd in the race now. It was the leader before the pit stops, but with all the 30 seconds compensation time, success penalty, whatever you like to call it, for winning the previous race, that has adjusted things in Class A. There's Class C second place car, Paul Sabiani, who's 20 seconds behind Cale Kelch, was a little bit quicker on the last lap, so that is a gap to monitor in the remainder of the race. Now that driver change has happened, has Paul Sabiani got the pace to catch Cale Kelch? We'll continue to look out for that, though. I think in a few moments' time we're going to head back down into the pit lane and have a chat to Andy McEwen, who's in the lane.
Well, we know we'll go back to Andy in a moment. Just a few problems down there in the pit lane. So we'll continue to work out what's going on in the situation for the lead, Josh.
I think the gap is 7 seconds between Rob Boston and Joel Oswick. So Rob Boston gained some time in the pit stops, and that is the gap to monitor. But I think we're going to be able to have a word now with Andy McEwen, who's down there in the pit lane.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, found the unmute button this time, and I can now have a chat with the car, the driver of the car, which came in as the race leader. Success penalties really changing the complexion of the race, and Area Motorsports #1 car definitely suffering from that. But Bradley Burns, an excellent opening stint for you nonetheless.
Yeah, it was okay. I think we did an hour and 10 or something, and the front tyres were just going off, so I thought it's best to optimise the time, get Rob in, put a new set of fronts on, and hopefully he can get the time a bit quicker. We were struggling at the beginning with the weight of the fuel, and then middle was all right, and then it just started going off again, so I think it's best to put a set of new on and then go from there.
Are you finding that the new surface here at Donington is increasing tyre wear on that left front? A few front-wheel drive drivers have told me that that might be the case.
Yeah, I think so, because it's definitely, we're going a little bit faster this year, so I think obviously there's more grip, it's just eating the tyres up a bit more, so I thought it was best to come in and box and swap drivers and tyres.
Obviously still trying to work out exactly what all of these success penalties mean, but it's going to be a close run to the flag. You've got the right man for the job there, haven't you? Rob knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Rob knows what he's doing. I think we're third at the moment with the penalties, the 10 seconds extra and all this stuff. We'll just see what happens at the end, is what it is.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for having a chat. So Bradley Burns there. Now, drama behind us for one of the Rob Boston Racing Lotuses, but it's actually the other one that I want to try and update you on. This is the number 19 actually having its mandatory pit stop, but somewhere lurking in the garage is Will Stacey, who of course was involved in that battle near the pointy end in the early part of the race. I can actually just see Will toweling himself off in the garage. Let's have a wander through. Will, can we grab you for a second, mate? We'll get out of the way of the pit stop so that we're not interfering too much and have a chat with the man of the moment, really, in the early part of the race there, Will Stacey, who was charging through the order after a slightly lowly grid position. But, Will, you were second place when you handed the car over. Got to be happy with that.
Yeah, we're really pleased. We had to, before today, we had to change the H-pattern gearbox, so we didn't have as much pace as usual. But we managed to, yeah, we had not the great best quality. It was a bit damp, got a few laps disallowed because I did track limits. But once then we had to just had enough pace, putting in the laps, managed to get past Joel with a bit of traffic in the M4, and we managed to get pretty much on the back of the Golf. And now obviously Rob's back out. He's about 5 seconds ahead of Joel and about 30 ahead of the Golf because they had a success penalty. So yeah, so I mean, I know Rob's got the pace, so he's just got to keep putting the laps in, keep the gap to the Golf and try and look after it.
Absolutely, try not to get run over as well. You mentioned there the gearbox issues that you've been having then, the change of that overnight. Where exactly does that sort of lose you a bit of time, do you think?
I'd say quite a lot out of the hairpins, because with the other gearbox, sequential, 6 gears, we're using second to 6th. We'll be using it around here. Whereas here, we're only, first is too short, 5th's too long. So I'm basically using second to 4th. So I'm only using 3 gears compared to 5 gears. So coming out the hairpins, you're losing. And coming up the hill for old hairpin, I'm having to sort of, it's between 3rd and 4th. So I'm having to sort of leave it in 4th and just try and carry as much speed as I can. But yeah, it makes it harder.
Harder, but not massively slower, it would seem. Will, we'll let you get back to the pictures inside. Thanks for having a catch-up with us there.
Thank you.
So, Will Stacey then, right in the thick of the battle. Let's get back to the action with Ian and Josh upstairs.
Thanks, Andy. And there is the car that Will Stacey was in until a few moments ago, now being driven by Rob Boston and effectively the leader of the race. Chris Plaskett still showing at the top of the timing screen, having yet to make his stop. He's got another 18 minutes or so in all which to do that. And then it is Boston second, Oswick third, Rob Baker in 4th, Phil Dryper in 5th, Mark Grice is, Will Beach now in that car, isn't it, in 6th, Martin Gadsby is 7th, and Darren Ball is in 8th position.
Yeah, so we wait then for Chris Plaskett's pit stop, and then we will have an idea how Class B is going and whether Scott Parkin can wrap up the Club Enduro Championship with a round to go at Silverstone. That is a possibility, I think, if Scott Parkin wins the race. And Plaskett's in the pits, isn't he? So I would think Scott Parkin should be ahead by the time that all ravels its way out, but we'll have to wait and see. And well, we know for one of the twin brothers it's not gone well. Ryan Parkin retiring on lap 2 with that issue. But it's possible the championship in Class B and the overall title could be wrapped up with a round to go. But here's our leader then. And leading gap, it's not a big gap at all. It's 5.6 seconds between Rob Boston and Joel Oswick. Oswick was half a second quicker on the previous lap. We've been having green flag racing for about an hour now. And so little to be chose between these two very different cars. You've got the small engine, lightweight Lotus. You've got the bigger, heavier, but much larger capacity BMW. But even though with the pit stop, absolutely nothing can be chose between these two cars really in 5 seconds over such many laps of the race.
Yeah, and that is the second of the Lotuses, side by side at the moment with the number 92 car, which is, where is that now in the...
Down to 13th.
13th, the Andrew Rath car. I think that will now be at the wheel, having taken over from Phil Nibb, also having a 15-second penalty for track limits earlier on in the race.
Just saw there then Scott Parkin in that 2010 Volkswagen Golf TDI. The diesel engine producing 270 brake horsepower, but all been turned into a diesel engine car by Darkside Motorsports, Darkside Developments, which Scott Parkin is the owner of with twin brother Ryan. So Scott Parkin turns his way out of Coffey's Corner. He was a winner at Croft in the opening round. He's won the most recent 2 rounds as well at Spa-Francorchamps and Snetterton 2. And when he gets to the line, we will see if he has moved ahead of Chris Plaskett and into the lead of Class B, which we'll have to both plug numbers into our spreadsheets in the final minutes of this race, Ian. But I think that is a potential championship winning position if Scott Parkin does win Class B today.
Yeah, that's right. So we're coming up to half an hour left to go. And I think the Plaskett car's been into the pits now, hasn't it?
Yeah,
so,
we just saw that.
So it is now, more or less what is on screen is what the...
I don't know if we can unzoom to see that other car still in the pit lane and see if that car of Chris Plaskett's still in the pit lane. We'll see that in a moment. But if that is the case, Scott Parkin has just taken the lead of Class B. We'll perhaps pick that up in just a moment's time. But if that is the case, that is an important change of position in that class. Well, it's not in the pits anymore, is it, Chris Plaskett's car?
No, but the car that is in the pits is the number 15 car, which is the Phil Drybrook car, as it now is.
There it is, Plaskett just out the pit lane, so Parkin should be ahead, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
And that's the second in Class B, absolutely together. So this is a change for second as Luke Slevich goes up the inside and through. So out of the pit lane, Chris Plaskett came out in second, but not immediately up to speed where Luke Slevich was. And he has just snuck then into second place in Class B. He's just set his personal best lap while doing it. He is currently 20 seconds behind Scott Parkin. So Scott Parkin does lead the class and potentially on the run towards winning the 2023 Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship.
Yeah, certainly is, with this good situation. Yes, as I thought, the car number 15, that has got a 1-minute stop-go penalty, the Drybrook and Gillespie car. That was because it wasn't pushed out correctly from its pit stop, so pit stop infringement effectively.
So Martin Gadsby's up to 5th. This is a great run he's having, isn't it? It's solo driven today, and he's 9 seconds ahead of Darren Ball, who might be catching him though, so that is a chase for 5th. But we are watching the battle for second place in Class B. This battle between Luke Slevich and the chasing car of Chris Plaskett, the 32-year-old car dealer from Surrey, trying to get that position back away. He's had a decent season. He was the winner at Anglesey in that area motorsport car. You got the Jabba Sport Golf ahead, and they are about 20 seconds behind class leader Scott Parkin. And the third car in this battle is also for position. Alan James in the Audi RS3 is chasing them down. The 4-time bronze medalist Paralympian skier Matthew Stockford's got out of the car, and Alan James, much more experienced car racer, at the wheel, and he should be able to move ahead of these two Class B cars shortly, Ian.
Yes, and he's doing personal best lap times as well. 1:43.11 the last time through. Other driver going well is the 19 car. Now, did that have the driver change there? Because that's also done a personal best lap. 1:48.79 now for the Mansfield and Sanford Lotus Elise S2, the Class B car.
Alan James has got it up into 10th ahead of Chris Plaskett there. Now, can Plaskett make anything of Alan James when he gets ahead of Luke Slevich? Can he follow him through for second in Class B? They've also got the race leader, Will Stacey, bearing down on them to lap them for a second time in this race.
Well, Plaskett's not close enough to make anything happen there. James couldn't get through ahead of Luke Slevich either. That attempt, he will have another go on the run down to the Melbourne hairpin. And indeed, looks like that move has been made by Alan James. And then the next car in front of them is the Paul Sabiani BMW from Class C, which is still running second in that class behind Kale Kelts. The third car in Class C at the moment, by the way, is the 333 car of Tom Stedman and Michael Hooper. Now Stedman now at the wheel.
So Rob Boston squeezing his way past this battle for 9th position at the moment and completes 51 laps off the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. And he's now leading gap down to 4.3 seconds over Joel Oswick. Obviously Joel will have to deal with this traffic on the next lap. He's pushing on, he's sliding the car out of Redgate Corner, that BMW M4. So a really fascinating chase on up front between these top two cars, working their way through that battle on for track position for 9th position. And they're all actually catching Paul Browse in 8th. So Alan James might be able to pick up another position before they're in much longer.
Yep, 25 minutes or so left to go.
And they're all being caught by Andrew Raff as well, Ian, sorry to interrupt. So you've got 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th separated by less than 10 seconds.
Yeah, you're right, because Raff's lapping the 143s, they're lapping in the sort of 147s, aren't they?
Yeah, he's with Plaskett now, isn't he, for what is the battle for 11th position in the race. But I guess Raff's real cars that he's chasing are Alan James and Paul Browse, and he's quicker than both of them at this stage.
He is, so we'll see if there's any more places made up in the remainder of this race. Down to the Melbourne hairpin he comes, number 92.
I think he was a little late on the brakes.
He was a little late on the brakes, very deep into the corner, so what he hoped to happen there didn't happen, and he's back behind the Plaskett car for the moment. So have another go a little bit later on. Round the Goddard hairpin they go to complete another lap. The leader now, Will Stacey, or Rob Boston should say now, is on lap 53.
Gap down to 3.5 seconds. Another second caught by Joel Oswick. So that's 2 laps in a row. So that's the gap the smallest it's been since the pit stops between our top 2 cars in the race with 25 minutes to go.
And obviously traffic is a bit of a factor now, but they're both sort of a couple of seconds or more off what they've been capable of in the earlier parts of this race. There's Edward Christie going through shot. They're coming towards us now. Is the Golf number 88, that's Joe Williams from Class B, running in 16th place overall, and I think 6th in class as well. And that's a very nicely prepared Golf. He goes now into the braking area for the hairpin, and there is the car in 3rd position, which is sort of lapping in similar lap times to the car in 2nd place, nearly 30 seconds up the road. So Rob Baker not making any impression on the top 2, and probably really needs to hope now that these have some kind of misfortune if he's going to get a win or a 2nd place in this race.
Without that 30-second penalty, it would be super close, wouldn't it, between those top 3 cars? But that's how the success rules go. We're going to have a battle for 5th in the race emerging, because Martin Gadsby is being caught quickly by Darren Ball. So 117, Martin Gadsby being caught by 82, Darren Ball. So we're looking for that battle at the moment. Were separated by a couple of seconds, but Darren Ball's been doing personal best laps, and he's quickly catching Martin Gadsby's BMW Compact. So we're just looking out for these cars at the moment. And here they are, absolutely together for 5th position. So Gadsby in the BMW, Ball in the Seat, and it might just be a matter of time before Darren Ball gets through, because he was lapping 3 seconds quicker than the car ahead. Good to have Darren Ball back in the series as well, Ian.
Yeah, we've seen him out in the Porsche in the past, haven't we, as well? He's been racing with the 750 mostly in BMWs in the past as well. He's been signalled through there by Martin Gadsby, so he didn't try to defend the position, and Darren Ball goes through into 5th place then, and 22 seconds Gadsby was behind Grice and Beach at the beginning of the lap. So I would think Ball will be able to sort of unwind that 15-second penalty that Beach has, and try and make up a position in the classification, if not on track.
Okay. Change for 8. Fallon James has got ahead of Paul Browse. So that gap was coming down. And Andrew Raff has also got past Kevin Glover to get 10th. And he's catching Paul Browse. So 22 and 92 might change on the next lap as well, I suspect. So Andrew Raff is making good progress. And for Paul Browse, he's losing positions at this stage of the race.
Yep, that's right. There's the 101 car. I think that's now being driven by Nick Grove, the Londoner, ahead of 71, which probably knows Ben Hansey at the wheel of that car, who had a win in the 5 Club race earlier on this afternoon.
Lead gap down to 2.5 seconds. Another second caught by Joel Oswick.
Yeah, 1:41.24 that time for Joel Oswick, who was only 4/10 off his best, whereas Boston a 1:42.16, which is nearly 2 seconds off the best time for that car, which was set by Will Stacey in the earlier part of the race.
Here's Oswick down the crane of curves into the old hairpin. He can see the car he's catching. It was about 6 seconds, 20 minutes ago when the pit stops were completed. So it's been a long, hard chase. But in the last couple of laps, he has really been catching Rob Boston. Now, is Rob Boston nursing an issue at all at this stage? His lap times are still pretty good. It's just perhaps that Joel Oswick is even quicker. He's keeping his tyres underneath him. But I don't think either of these cars changed tyres at the pit stops, unlike the car in 3rd position, which did. So Joel Oswick, the 21-year-old mechanic from Hertfordshire, there in 2nd place. You can see Will Stacey ahead, well, Boston even ahead of him. The 41-year-old, 3-time Janetta Super Cup race winner was Rob Boston, Mazda champion as well. Being chased though by Oswick behind. The Stanley-backed BMW M4 twin turbocharged machine.
Yeah, it's looking good for an exciting finish to this race, isn't it? This Tegiwa Club Enduro race. There's 5 minutes after the pit window, but it's pretty academic because everyone's now made their pit stops in this race. So it's an academic matter, as I say. 2.6 seconds now the gap. Joel Oswick has just done the best lap for that car in the race, a 1:40.82. But on that last lap, Boston a 1:40.73, so about 9 hundredths of a second faster, but not as quick as that car has been early in the race. So the gap pretty static on that lap. Boston perhaps realising that he just needed to raise his game, with Oswick starting to bear down on him. The gap roughly 2.5 seconds between them. There's more than 30 seconds now between Joel Oswick in 2nd, who's still pushing on, and Rob Baker in 3rd place. Just an update on the classes. It is still Scott Parkin in 7th place overall, number 89 of the Golf TDI, leading in Class B from the Golf GTI of Luke Schlevitz and Chris Plaskett in 3rd. And within Class C, it's Cale Keltz, number 53, that leads by about 15 seconds from Paul Subiani.
So it's coming down.
It has come down, yes, that gap for the Class C lead. And then 3rd in that class is the Stedman and Hooper Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, so that gap, I think, was at least 20 when we last looked at it. Joel Oswick is sliding around a lot now, so that probably won't do the rear tyres terribly much good, I'm sure. But at this point, he's just trying ever so hard to get this first win for this car in the Club Enduro Championship. And Boston then up across the line. The gap was 2.6 seconds. Boston in the 40s, a 1:40.84. Oswick 800 slower. The speed differential of these cars, there's nothing really in it at all. It's going to come down to traffic in, I think, and how smoothly they get past the other cars.
Yeah, I think that's right. So this gap pretty static the last couple of laps then, 2.5, 2.75 seconds, something like that. The Ian Thornton Honda is lapped there.
It's got a bit of damage to the rear of the car, I think. Maybe just the bumper hanging off. Yeah, I think that's all it is.
Yeah, and there's the Oswick car in 2nd place, number 2. That car has had a couple of 3rd places so far this season, yet to have a win, whereas the Will Stacey Rob Boston car, that's been twice a winner so far this year. Is Boston going to hang on to the honours this time, though? That's the question.
Mark Grice and Will Beach have fallen to 6th with a slow lap, 2 minutes 20. Now, whether that was a drive-through penalty or a mistake, not sure if you've got anything on the...
I've got nothing to help with deciding that, I'm afraid.
There it is.
Yeah.
So Darren Ball's up to 4th. So that's going to be a good result for him and Ben Williams. And 5th is Martin Gadsby.
Yeah, kept themselves out of trouble, Ben Williams and Darren Ball so far.
There's Alan James in 8th, who's being caught by Andrew Raff, who's got himself up to 9th and ahead of Paul Browse.
Yeah, and it's about 12 or 13 seconds that James has to the next car, which is the Class B leader, Scott Parkin, as well. But as you say, he's being caught now by Andrew Raff in the Seat.
Lead gap came down by 4/10 of a second on that lap. It's now 2.3 seconds between Boston and Oswick, with just over 15 minutes of the race to go. It's both in the 41s on that lap. They both just lapped Scott Parkin, the Class B leader. Champion-elect, I think. Not sure if Ian's got a spreadsheet for this one or not, but see if you agree with what I think might happen here.
Well, I shall put some numbers into it, and we'll see what we come out with.
Okay, so I'll keep an eye on what's going on the circuit, with around 15 minutes or so to go. Quarter of an hour. There is Scott Parkin then, who we're talking about, the Class B leader, looking for his 4th victory of the season in the 89 Volkswagen Golf. Looking back at some of the other cars. But yeah, let's have a look at Scott Parkin and looking for his 4th win this season. So far he's had 3 wins, a 2nd and a 5th in Class B. The driver from Barnsley in South Yorkshire turns his way through the S's, accelerates now up towards the Melbourne Loop for what is lap number 56 of his race, and he leads Class B by around 20 seconds at this stage, so looks of it's keeping that gap pretty similar. Looking back to Class C, this is Paul Subiani, who is catching Carol Coutts. The gap less than 13 seconds now between the two Class C leaders. Came down by 4/10 of a second on the most recent lap. Meanwhile, the overall leaders, the gap's down to 1.6 seconds. So Joel Oswick is nearly with Rob Boston now. On the last lap, he was 0.8 of a second quicker. So pretty substantial gains over the last 5 laps or so from Joel Oswick. Car number 2, catching the leader, 48, Rob Boston. And here they are, both together almost on the circuit now as they turn their way through the old hairpin for the 59th time in this race. Oswick's done the whole thing. Will Stacey started the Lotus. Rob Boston at the wheel now. There's quite a lot of traffic to deal with as well, including the battle, I think, for 5th position in the race. Martin Gadsby and Will Beach about to go a lap down. So these are going to be difficult cars for the race leader, Rob Boston, to lap.
I've put numbers in my spreadsheet, and I presume you were thinking, is the championship going to be decided today? And I think it probably will be. Yeah. In favour of Scott Parkin if it stays this way.
Overall championship as well as Class B.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So that's if Scott Parkin can hang on. And Rob Boston's been held up there through the S's substantially behind the Seat of Will Beach, and Joel Oswick's right there now. To the top 2 are together on what is lap 59 of the race, and Oswick tries to go right round the outside of Rob Boston. And he can't quite get there. But and Oswick went really wide. I think that was a big effort late on the brakes, but he slid wide. But they still can't get past Will Beach, who of course is the Class A Championship leader, but he is about to go a lap down to what is a real battle for the lead of the race with less than 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, now the Lotus has cleared Beach, so Oswick will want to try and do that as well by the time he gets to Redgate Corner. Beach moves to the left-hand side of the circuit, so I think does allow that to happen, or does he? Oswick was getting almost alongside Boston as well there through Redgate Corner, so the gap was about half a second as they came across the line. Boston ahead of Oswick. They've both cleared the lapped car now. They're just coming up to lap another car as well, which is the Gadsby car that's in 5th position. And again, they've got a car splitting them, the 1st and 2nd place pair. So that's worked out at that point in favour of Rob Boston. There's 12 minutes of this race left to go here.
Because Oswick's fighting back here into McLean's. I think Mark Grice has also got Martin Gadsby for 5th. But anyway, the real battle is for the lead of the race. And it is Rob Boston versus Joel Oswick, the German Autoworks team that have put so much effort into this BMW M4, yet to win a race in the championship. And for Rob Boston and Will Stacey, they've had their difficulties in the most recent races, and he's got a really good run. He's got more power. He's looking to the outside, is Oswick, but Boston knows how to defend. He's won many of races over the years here, not necessarily against different types of car like we've got here.
No, this is something that is possibly his less experienced in, but he'll be very comfortable with it. Nevertheless, there's back markers ahead as Oswick tries to get alongside Boston. The Mazda gets out of the way, or tries to. I think that was the car that's third in Class C as well, was it? As they're side by side now, it's Oswick on the outside line. He's later on the brakes. He's got the nose of the BMW in front, but Boston, that lighter, more nimble car, can just slide through on the inside. We've got 11.25 minutes left to go. It's probably going to be something like 6 laps of this race remaining. And now Oswick's having another go here as they come into Redgate Corner. They're lapping the 176 Lynch BMW now. And still, it's Boston that's just about hanging on, but this has bubbled up into the conclusion we hoped for.
Yeah, the BMW quicker in a straight line, so particularly up to McLean's and down into the S's is where the BMW is able to challenge. So Rob Boston, we heard from Will Stacey with Andy McEwen saying they're not really able to take it through the right gear, through the old hairpin, which means it's slower all the way up the hill compared to what they would like it to be. They've got the Honda S2000 to lap, and actually that time Boston made a better run of it out of the old hairpin and up the hill, so he's not under threat that time, but he is pushing on. He's up over the curbs. Equally, they've got to be careful here not to exceed track limits, because we've seen penalties for a number of cars during the course of this race, and we seeing everyone using a lot of road at the moment. On this lap, Rob Boston is perhaps put a little bit of daylight between himself and Joel Oswick where he needs to before the long straights, where that BMW's got a few miles per hour advantage.
That Dan Orsano Honda S2000 that we saw a moment ago, that is leading the Club and Cup class as well by about 22 seconds from Michael Downey. That's for pre-2010 cars. As we are watching the lead battle, not as close as it has been at this part of the circuit on the previous 2 laps, but there's still going to be a few laps to go. And now the Beach Cupra has stopped on the Grand Prix pit circuit, the old Grand Prix pit circuit entrance there.
It's the Class A Championship leading car.
It is, so that is drama. Of course, it was in what position was it?
It was in fourth at one point,
yeah.
And I think it dropped to 6th, got back up to 5th. So perhaps it was not a penalty earlier, it was a problem that we didn't see, but a much larger issue this time, it seems.
Yeah, so I think they tried to get that car off the road, but just couldn't quite pull it off the circuit there. So that's a late drama for that car. Into the last 10 minutes of the race now. There's the 89 car of Scott Parkin just going through shot. He's our Class B leader, 8th place overall, and with a reasonable advantage over Luke Schlevitz in 2nd place within that class. He just laps the car that's in 3rd within Class C. That's the car now being driven by Thomas Stedman, the driver from Warwick.
Class A leaders just shot through there. Maybe Oswick a little bit closer again to Rob Boston than what he was on the previous lap, but not close enough to challenge, I don't think, this time. The gap did go out to 1.6 seconds, but yeah, it's come down from there, but it's not quite as close as it was 2 laps ago when they were side by side at times.
Yeah, the last lap, Boston under 140.7, only about 3/10 off the best lap that car was done in this race when Will Stacey set the lap time, which is 140.39. Still haven't got underneath the Chris Boardman lap record from 2 years ago, which is a 139.75. I think it's unlikely that's going to happen now. The beach car being pushed off by the marshals now, so that's not going to be a problem. 8 minutes of the race left. The German Autoworks car of Joel Oswick turning its way through. The teammate for that car, Kel Keltz, is still leading in Class C. Now that gap had been coming down between Kel Keltz and Paul Subiani. I'm just trying to see if that's continuing to be the case. I don't think it can be, because it's quite a long wait for the Subiani car to come through. I wonder if there might even be... Oh no, they have come through now, 18 seconds. So the gap went out by about 4 seconds actually on that lap. So Subiani a bit slower in the battle for the... so that it is for the Class C lead. But this is a real battle. It's for the Class A lead, it's for the overall lead as well.
Yeah, they've just got a lap count, and I think there's yellows here, so they can't go past that slower car. Then they get into a green zone because there's a car off. But Joel Oswick's now ahead how's that happened? And now he's letting him back past, isn't he? I think he realised what happened there. So Joel Oswick let Rob Boston back past, but the battle for the lead is certainly engrossing again between the two of them. So a error, but corrected by Joel Oswick immediately to allow Boston back through. And now Boston weaving around, defending down towards the S's. Oh, Joel Oswick's got a big attempt here around the outside and on the tighter line. Oh, very well done, I think, by Rob Boston through the S's to carry a lot of speed through the corner despite being on an awkward line defending. So, yeah, he's pulled an advantage out over Joel Oswick. So, really good driving that by Rob Boston.
Yeah, and lapping the Matthew Tidmarsh United G40 drive from Huddersfield there, and Oswick not yet clear of that car. So, Boston it is leading with probably, it's going to be 4 laps to go, do we reckon, at the end of this one? Yeah, 4 laps to go now, I reckon. Over the line goes Boston, over the line goes Oswick. 1.05 seconds it was at the beginning of the lap, 1.23 seconds it was at the end of the lap, but it's still very much race on here between those two. A few dramas on that lap. We'll see if anything is done about what happened, if anything, under the yellow flags down there. You can see they are, though, still waving.
So
that's for a car off the circuit into the gravel trap and at Schwanz-Curve.
I wonder what car that was that's had an issue. It's the Honda S2000, I think, that was leading the Clubman Cup
yes,
division.
That's disappeared from the timer screens, hasn't it? And that makes sense. It's sort of right kind of shape with that. So Michael Downey now moves into the Clubman's Cup class lead, and I suspect that might be enough to wrap up the Clubman's Cup title as well.
But the overall title could be going to this man here, Scott Parkin, who's in 8th position overall, but more importantly leading Class B. So here come the leaders. Gap extended then with that bold effort down through the S's last time round for this driver here, Rob Boston. And he, for the 64th time in this race, is heading down. He was about to lap the car in 4th position, Darren Ball. So this really shows the pace of the top 3 have been in this race, although Rob Baker has dropped away from the top 2. Even without that 30-second success penalty, I don't think Rob Baker had the pace perhaps to live with Boston and Oswick, because they're 40 seconds behind now, which is obviously more than 30. That's easy maths to do. So I think it would have been between these two anyway, Ian, although perhaps Rob Baker not feeling the need to push on as much as he's not involved in the dice.
There is our Class C leader. That is 53. Kyle Keltz, and I think he's going to become the first driver from Arizona to claim a class win in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. Rob Boston's just done the best lap of the race there, a 1:40.13. Pulled out another 0.8 of a second over Joel Oswick that time, so he is still pushing on, still keen to make sure he wins this race. But yes, Kyle Keltz doing a great job here in this Class C car, about 20 seconds clear of the next car in that class of Paul Subiani, 3rd in that class. Just checking, because it's disappeared off the first page of my timing screen. It is still the Stedman Mazda MX-5, the treble 3 car in 3rd position in that class. But this has been a very good drive from Kel Keltz. He came from the back towards the top 6 or 7 positions in the Armed Forces Race Challenge races yesterday as a guest driver, and it's looked a pretty accomplished drive this here at Donington Park in his first Club Enduro round.
He's just being lapped by Martin Gadsby, who's still 5th, but being caught by Alan James. Also being caught by Andrew Rapp, but he's got a penalty to come. So it's all about, in that battle, whether Alan James can get past Martin Gadsby. For the lead of the race, the gap was 2 seconds between Boston and Oswick. But Scott Parkin, who now leads by the best part of half a minute in Class B, continuing on this run towards the 2023 Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship title for a very successful season. Wonder it's getting quite hot out there, because he's down the long straight every time. He has his arm out of the cockpit trying to get air to him, as Joel Oswick sets his personal best lap of the race, a 1:40.71 with 2 laps to go, I think. So 2 laps to go. The gap is still only a couple of seconds. Just catching a car in the wrong place in traffic could bring them back together, Ian.
Oswick closed in by a 10th that time, because he did a personal best lap of the race of 1:40.71, and the gap down to less than 2 seconds therefore. So Oswick still has a victory, centre victory in his nostrils here. he could do this yet. There's a lap and a half or so to go now. Probably needs Boston to just make a small mistake somewhere, I would think. They've both been lapping in pretty consistent lap times for a number of laps, so I'm not sure that Oswick can do this entirely on his own. Has been driving solo, of course. Great job he has done throughout the race. It looks like that first victory in Club Enduro this season is going to continue to elude him. It looks like we're going to get a third victory for that Blue Lotus, but there's still just over a lap to go.
Yeah, that's right. Not sure how much traffic there may be to deal with before the checkered flag. They arrive down there at the Melbourne Leap once more, turning through the hairpin, and then up to the second of the hairpins at Goddard's, and that's where Rob Boston already is. And the last lap board goes out to the leader.
Yeah, just over a minute to go. And I think the gap might have gone out again, if anything. So it was 1.95. 1:40.05, another fastest lap for Rob Boston on the penultimate lap of the race. And it was a slower lap by 2.5 seconds for Joel Oswick. So the gap's now more than 4 seconds between first and second. So not sure we're going to get a grandstand finish. There's Scott Parkin. He is still leading Class B and looking good, I would think, to wrap up the championship if he can stay there for another lap or so.
Even though the gap has gone out, it's going to be one of the closest finishes of the championship history, and it's been one of the where Croft, that was a real battle at the beginning of the race, wasn't it? This race has been sort of right to the checkered flag, which has been great to see, and some interesting stuff going on in the other classes too. Scott Parkin's really led from the start in Class B. In Class C we had that drama for Alistair Camp, potential collision, which is giving Kyle Kelts his chance to lead the class. And he's really pulling away from Paul Sabiani now. He's doing very slow lap times, so the gap is pretty large in Class C. Sabiani limping the BMW home, but for Rob Boston, there's no limping this home. He is pushing on right to the last couple of corners, and this is going to put Will Stacey right back into the hunt for the Class A Championship, as Rob Boston's done a great job in this final few laps to keep Joel Oswick at bay, and he heads then towards the final corner looking for the car's third win of the year.
Yeah, first win came at Croft. That was Will Stacey driving solo on that occasion. The second win came Anglesey. Rob was sharing the car with Will that time out. They've had these gearbox issues this weekend, but no matter, because Will Stacey and Rob Boston win round 6 of the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. It's been a very closely fought race. Second place goes the way of Joel Oswick. A best result for Joel, but just missing out on the victory he would have hoped for. Going through there, the 4th place car, I think that was, wasn't it, of number 82.
Darren Ball and Ben Williams.
As well. So, yeah, Ben Williams started that car. Darren Ball finished it. Here's our Class B victor, and this is Scott Parkin. He's in 8th place overall. And if he finishes where he is now, as he looks like he's going to, that's the overall Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship sewn up with a meeting to go. Yeah, a really good effort this in a very competitive class. The 4th win of the season in Class B, and adding that to a second place finish as well. That's going to be his 5 scoring points, which no one else can beat, heading to Silverstone. So Scott Parkin, we think, the 2023 Tegiwa Club Enduro champion. And although German Autoworks were denied the overall victory, they are going to get the Class C win here for Kyle Kelts, the American driver, on his Club Enduro debut in the car that won the championship last season in Class C. Takes the checkered flag, and Joel Oswick second overall. Kyle Kelts winning Class C, so not a bad day for the German Autoworks squad there. In the battle for 5th position, Martin Gadsby held Alan James off on the last lap by 0.2 of a second. With Phil Knibb and Andrew Raff just behind, but he had a penalty. So Martin Gadsby, probably a best result for that car in this championship, I would think, and driving solo. So that was a great effort to finish 5th. And the last car, I think, on the leading lap was Rob Baker and Bradley Burns. They have come across the line in 3rd place overall, gradually falling away from the leaders, 53 seconds behind Stacey and Boston in the end. Rob Boston has taken the checkered flag twice, yes, which sometimes isn't looked on particularly pleasantly by the clerk of the course. No, the drivers should obviously pull off once they see the checkered flag the first time. It also means he's going to be late for his interview with Andy McEwen as well. So he's been trying to get out of that, obviously. Who wouldn't? That is everyone across the finish line, I think, at the end of that race. A dramatic Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race, and we'll see if we can bring you the final standings from that one. Here we go. 67 laps completed by the race winners, Will Stacey and Rob Boston, number 48. Second was number 2, that was Joel Oswick. He was 6.73 seconds adrift. And third was number 1, Rob Baker and Bradley Burns. They were 53 seconds behind the leader. Everyone else was 2 laps down or more. Fourth was number 82, Ben Williams and Darren Ball. Fifth, number 117, Martin Gadsby. Sixth, number 78, Matthew Stockford and Alan James. Seventh, number 92, Phil Nib. Although he has a 15-second penalty, that will drop him back to 8th place behind Scott Parkin in the end. Scott Parkin, number 89, wins in Class B to wrap up the overall championship. 9th place goes the way of number 15, which is Colin Gillespie and Phil Dryborough. 10th to number 22, Paul and Luke Browse. Then 11th to number 95, second in Class B, that's Luke Levitz and Kevin Glover, with Christopher Plaskett, number 91, in 12th place, and rounding out the top 3 in Class B. So we go further back through the standings. I think we will find our Class C winner, 53, Kyle Keltz, in 19th position overall. He completed 61 laps effectively, in the end a lap ahead of Johnny Hayes and Paul Subiani, number 66. So they were 19th and 20th. 25th overall and 3rd within Class C, the Thomas Stedman and Michael Hooper, number 333 Mazda MX-5. They completed the podium as far as Class C were concerned, and then we get down to the drivers that didn't make it to the end, including that Honda S2000 number 11, Orsono and Dark, and then on the following pages a few more drivers and teams that had dramas. Some of them did get back out, some didn't. One notable one there, the David Lawrence Alistair Camp car that was the Class C leader coming into this weekend, and one that has a chance of the overall championship, but that hasn't panned out because Scott Parkin's win and fastest lap in Class B this weekend should be enough provisionally to seal the overall championship title in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship, which resumes and then it finishes at Silverstone at the end of October. 2 more races to come this afternoon, Historic 750 Formula and the BMW Car Club Racing Championship. But let's head down to the pit lane now, where Andy McEwen is going to talk to the drivers.
Well, a real grandstand finish then in that Tegiwa Club Enduro race, particularly at the very front of the field. But it was the Rob Boston Racing Lotus that came out on top, and Rob himself gets out of the car to be congratulated, I'm sure, by those who he went up against. But a fantastic battle that it was they had. We'll let you get your helmet off first, Rob. We'll have a quick chat with you in a moment. We've got Scott Parkin in as the Class B winner, and Kale Keltz victorious in Class C. We'll be able to have a word with all 3 of them in good time. James Winstanley from the 750 Motor Club ready and waiting with Rob Boston's prize, which is the winner's garland, the winner's cap, a whole load of championship points going your way as well. All in all, Rob, not a bad afternoon's work.
Yeah, that was great. People have had no idea from the pit wall there, but I was having a nightmare. That thing was missing and popping and banging, and it was so hard. And yeah, it cleared for a couple of laps for me to get a couple of clear laps in, but the rest of the time it was popping and banging, and the beamer behind me, Joel, was all over me like a rash. I mean, taking out 20 car lengths some straights, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a struggle. But it cleared with about 4 laps to go. And that was it. I just got a little bit of a gap then. I don't know where he finished. He wasn't behind me right at the end.
He did seem to drop back towards the end, but part of that, I think, was that you got suddenly quicker, and now that explains why.
Maybe that's it. But yeah, I mean, the team have done such a good job. I can't tell you how pleased I am to get this car to the finish. I'm quite emotional, actually. Come here, Will.
And here is Will. Here's Will Stacey. I mean, we chatted to Will during the race, but we'll get your thoughts again, Will. You must have been watching on nervously from the pit lane then, wondering what on earth was going to happen.
We're very nervous, especially when he started gaining. Joel started gaining. In the last 10 minutes, Rob just pulled it out of the bag. It went quicker, managed just to get enough ahead of him. And by then, Joel has probably lost it by then, almost given up hope because he managed to go so quick. So yeah, delighted.
Makes up a little bit for some of the bad luck you've had earlier this season, this, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't healthy by any means. It definitely wasn't, but it made it. It made it to the end, for once.
And that is all that matters. Big congratulations then to our overall and Class A winners now. Scott Parkin, class winner in Class B. You had a far less stressful race from the outside, it seemed, anyway, than our Class A winners. Was it as calm and reassured as it looked?
Yeah, well, the guys just said now why were we going so fast every lap when they had such a big gap, but I'd lost radio comms. They were holding a pit board and I could see there were a big gap. But you just never know with this, you know. There's no point slowing right down, losing the gap. All you need is a little issue and cost you quite a bit of time. So yeah, just kept pushing. But then towards the end, I was looking at the fuel gauge. It were on 0 for like the last 3 laps. So I've never run it that low down. So I wasn't sure how long it would last. So I was just doing lifting and coasting, short shifting as much as I could. So the lap times dropped off, which is a bit of a shame because I would have liked to have gone for the lap record. I think the car had it in it, or about 6 tenths off, I think. So yeah, it's a shame that I didn't go for it, but yeah, better finishing the race than going for the fastest lap and losing. So
exactly. I saw you having a chat as well with Ryan during the pit stop, and obviously he didn't have quite such a good day. At least you've been able to bring something back for the team.
Yeah, exactly. We had a good day yesterday. It's a shame that Dylan didn't get to go in the car, especially after last time he sat in it. It died after 1 lap. So we've clearly got some sort of gremlin that needs sorting out, and hopefully we get that sorted for the end of the season, because that might be my car next year. So fingers crossed we can get everything ironed out over the winter.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Scott. Congratulations on the class win. Now in Class C, it is the German Auto Works team who are celebrating, and Kale Kelt's victorious in Class C. Sometimes the Class C cars can get overlooked a bit, but you guys have a really busy time of it out there, don't they? How was your race?
It was great. It was busy. A lot of looking in the mirrors, staying on top of things. So yeah, we had to pay attention.
It's not easy, is it? And of course, quite a competitive class, actually, Class C as well, so you can't afford to put a foot wrong.
That's true. Yeah, there is stiff competition, and we had a battle all the way to the end. We P2 most of the race, and then there was a problem, I think, with the first place car, and then we managed to keep it all together.
Any problems with your car? 2 hours is quite a long time for a car like this, isn't it?
No, old Monty's, this is old hat for Monty. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Congratulations. And a good day yesterday as well. You certainly sold the limelight when you were racing in the Armed Forces race.
Yeah, yesterday we learned a lot. We've had an action-packed weekend with rain on Wednesday, and then kind of some mixed stuff on Friday, and then starting from the back of the grid yesterday. It was a great weekend.
Excellent stuff. Congratulations then on the class win in the Club Enduro. Right, only a couple of races still to go here at Donington Park. The next car's out on track. They've already raced once today. It's the Race Parts Historic 750 Formula Championship. They'll be up soon.